that was on Meet the Parents. Whenever Greg shows up, or he comes out and he sees Robert De Niro out there doing his little dealing or whatever, and then he goes,
Mm-hmm.
"You ready?" And Robert De Niro goes, "Yep, been ready," and he was the one holding him. So that would, in turn, I was like, that's like the best cocky response that you can do, is just saying, "Yeah, been ready. You're the one that's been holding it up," especially when you're the one that was holding it up. So, friends and family, real quick, let's address the elephant in the room. I have to use this bullshit Zoom meeting camera, like I'm part of Meta's boardroom going around during quarantine for COVID or whatever, and I hate it as much as you guys do. I know you hate to see me face on. I know there's like a million other angles you would probably rather see me at, but you've got to deal with me at this angle today. While we try to figure out what the heck happened to my camera. I have no idea what's going on with the webcam, and Jerry and I have been trying to troubleshoot it for the last 18 minutes. That's why we're so far behind. Jerry, did you want to do your wadical whoopsies, and then we can do a little bit of banter?
Yeah, sure. I should also inform the audience, since you brought up the metaverse, and last week, of course, we did a half deep dive, maybe 3/4 deep dive. You should know, Tom, there's a woman who's alleging she got gang raped in the metaverse. All right, that's already.
Is it AOC?
Already?
Was it AOC that thought that she got gang raped in the metaverse by a bunch of protesters at the Ottawa, or up in Ottawa?
Yeah, it was by a bunch of truckers in the metaverse. They were all stuck in the Farmville section because all the food couldn't get through. And that's where she came over, and she's like, "Oh my God, guys, I can't believe this." And they were like, "Whoa, AOC, I can't believe you're here either." And she was like, "Well, I heard that when the workers were taking over production." I was like, "Oh my God, that's so exactly what I've been talking about."
I have been trying to unite the workers of the world since Friedrich Engels wrote the book on it.
That's right.
And then Karl Marx got credit for it.
And then Bernie Sanders got credit for that on the book that I so famously won in one of my
Bernie Sanders in the Communist Manifesto, one of my favorites.
That's right. That's right. Yes, it's going to be I don't know if everybody knows this. Also, Tom had a bit of future telling. It actually turns out that is going to be the 6th installment of Indiana Jones. I had no idea.
Indiana Jones and the Communist Manifesto. No, Bernie Sanders in the Last Crusade.
Yes,
he just goes around stealing everything that's
Yes, exactly. Everything is his to take. It's for the people, though. Really, it's not just for him.
Naturally.
So
it's their victory.
That's right. So this week in Wacky Whoopsies, the Wacky Whoopsies. Frankly, I had a ton of them, as I always do. But the last 4 I kind of like, and I'm going to keep them shorthand, so I'm reading them off my Telegram here off my phone. Usually I grab up the article and take a little more time, but since we're behind, I'm going to just smatter it here. Breaking, this is from Project Veritas. Louisiana Department of Health whistleblower claims COVID cases inflated for profit. You don't say.
That can't be.
That's it. And then it says here, quote, he went in for gunshot wounds and was coded as COVID. Jacques, are you serious?
It must have gotten in through the bullet holes.
That's it. When you have more open wounds and pores, as you know.
Are you remembering to mask up your bullet wounds? Detroit, are you remembering to mask up all your bullet wounds?
And Tom, we have to be very clear. You cannot simply mask them with the old T-shirt, bandana / even
gators.
Neck gaiters. None of them. Not even the blue ones that are all foldy. No, you have to cover your bullet wounds with KN95 masks. Which, by the way, as I've been told,
for the bullet wounds, you would think that it would be an N9mm 5 or an N95 millimeter. I don't know where to go with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom has broken the joke machine. It's usually my job. That's usually my job, and somehow Tom got in there first. So
I had to.
Breaking. This is from Disclosed TV. Black Lives Matter's national arm reportedly just went. Dude, this is hilarious. Hold your booze.
Well, I just instinctively boo when I hear Black Lives Matter.
I understand.
That's my thing.
Black Lives Matter's national arm reportedly just went and shut down all its online funding streams following an investigation that exposed the charity's lack of financial transparency. And from the Washington Examiner, which is where Disclosed TV got this from, they shut down fundraising days after liberal states threatened legal action. Black Lives Matter shut down all of its online fundraising streams late Wednesday afternoon, just days after California, okay, of all places. Fucking places, yeah, threatened to hold the charity's leaders personally liable over its lack of financial transparency. Now, we have, let's see here. Oh, all right, Tom. I think I may have said something about this before, so we're going to make it quick. If you were going to give a percentage of effectiveness to the lockdowns in terms of helping out the old viral spread,
well, we're all in
what percentage would you give it? Yes, exactly. What percentage of success would you give it? And you could go over 100%. I'm not going to limit you.
Well, given it was Dr. Fauci who was in charge of all this, it would be hard to keep it just at 100. I'm inclined to put it over 100, but for the sake of following the science and believing the science and the fact that mathematics is a form of science, or they're closely interrelated, I'd like to keep it under 100%, or at a maximum 100%. But I would say somewhere in the vicinity of, easy. I would say in the vicinity of 100%, give or take.
Yeah, well, you have to have a little bit of margin of error. Look, other than Fauci, aka Jesus, there's a lot of mistakes that can be made. There's a lot of people involved. You know what I mean? So here's a new Johns Hopkins study. Quote, lockdowns have had little to no public health effects. And they imposed enormous economic social costs. Lockdown policies are ill-founded and should be rejected as a pandemic policy instrument. A new study out of the renowned Johns Hopkins University has concluded that global lockdowns have had a much more detrimental impact on society than they have produced any benefit, with researchers urging that they are, quote, ill-founded and should be rejected as a pandemic policy instrument. The study was authored by Jonas Herby and a bunch of other people. The focus, according to the authors...
For the purpose
put their names out there. Put their names out there.
Of being, because we're a show that is fact based, right?
Oh, we're thorough. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, we want to make sure that all these names are listed and say them as wrong as you possibly can.
Joan Ass Herb, special advisor at Center for Political Studies in Copenhagen, Denmark. Large Joe hung like a big penis. Professor Emeritus in Economics at Lund University, Sweden, and Stephen H. Dirty Hanky, a professor of applied economics, global health, and study of business enterprise. So, those are your culprits, my friend. Oh. And now,
all of them, they sound like they've got stupid names too.
Unpatriotic, for being from other countries. It's So
you probably wouldn't see them standing at a national anthem.
Right? No. They'd be where is the hot dog line? I've never had a hot dog.
Wait, these are the doughboys who as if people still live in that time frame. They clearly weren't alive in the 1910s and 1930s. That's true. Respectively.
Well, we don't know. Listen, we don't know. They're all look, science, you know what I mean? That's how it is. So, okay, here is a letter to Defense Secretary Austin from Senator Johnson, okay, on dramatic increases in medical diagnoses among military personnel. Can you believe it? Tom, somehow, in their quest to fuck with the military and forcing yet more drugs and other experimental things into their system, believe it or not, there may be some repercussions to that. Tom, can you believe it?
I cannot.
All right, well, here we go. And I'm going to read the whole post here. On January 24th, this is from Senator Johnson. Of course, I did not hold a roundtable. On January 24th, I held a roundtable featuring world-renowned doctors and medical experts who shared their perspectives on COOF vax efficacy and safety. At the roundtable, I heard testimony from Thomas Renz, an attorney who was representing 3 DoD whistleblowers who revealed disturbing information regarding dramatic increases in medical diagnoses among military personnel. Now, Tom, we mentioned before how we don't like to go over 100% here out of respect for mathematics.
Well, sure.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to say that this entire thing is over 100%. Okay? I'm apologizing for the lack of mathematical and scientific integrity in this clear liars bullshit. Okay?
Who's lying exactly? Ron Johnson?
We're saying that the testimony from Thomas Renz, the attorney
that guy.
For the DoD whistleblowers, must be full of garbage because these are over 100%.
Okay.
All right. Hypertension is up 2,181%.
Yeah, he's already way over 100 there.
That's a lot.
Right off the get-go.
There's just a ton. Diseases of the nervous system, 1,048% increase. Malignant neoplasms of esophagus, 894% increase. Multiple sclerosis, 680% increase. Malignant neoplasms of digestive organs, that's the tum-tums, minimum. 680% increase. Malignant, Guillain-Barré syndrome? I don't know what that is.
I can never pronounce that one. My wife always corrects me whenever
Guillain, maybe? I don't know. But it's a 551% increase. Breast cancer, 487% increase. But frankly, I would also attribute that to letting women in the military. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest.
If there were no women in the military, it would be 0%.
Right. Problem solved. I mean, I don't understand. Why are they just blaming all these?
Has nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah, I don't know what. It's so ridiculous.
It's entirely with the feminine squashing the patriarchy, right?
That's it. I mean, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you can't climb the same height wall as the rest of us. Don't call it breast cancer. Yeah. Jeez, you bitch. Anyway, no, could you imagine?
Sexism in the military isn't real, or sexism in general. It's not real.
I know, you dumb whore. Anyway, so no. Demyelinating. I don't know how. DEMYELINATING. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
487% increase. Female infertility. Again, Tom, I think we could have solved this. 472% increase.
Yeah.
Pulmonary.
It would have been zero
dude,
if not for military,
I'm saying.
For women in the military.
Pulmonary embolisms. 468% increase. Testicular cancer, 369% increased.
Hey, first of all, 69, nice. Second of all, you know how we could have gotten rid of that one? Just not letting men in the military either. You know, we would have just had nobody in the military. But who would have jumped in? It would have been the trannies who don't identify as either one, right? It would have been the ones
thought robot dogs.
Well, those two, because as I understand, they're making
those are trans dogs, right?
There's like a whole battalion of robot trans dogs.
I have one last one.
They're terrifying. Go ahead.
Yes, tachycardia, tachycardia, TACHY, cardia. So however you say that.
That's tachycardia. That means
okay.
If I recall, that's like a sped up heart, because tachy and then bradycardia, I think, is when it slows down.
Well, that obviously couldn't matter in a fight sequence or some kind of physical activity. So I don't know why I don't even know why they care about that. But it's 302% increase. So that's
you know how we could do away with that? Not letting anything with the beating heart into the military.
Shabai.
Yeah, just snatch that thing out of there and be done with it.
That's it.
Remember, because that was in Bernie Sanders and the Temple of Doom.
I'm just a professor.
I'm just a professor.
This belongs in a museum.
Short round. Hey, short round.
I know I shouldn't call you short round, but given the era that this is supposed to be from, it makes total sense for the dialogue.
With
I
his yellow
apologize
teeth.
in advance, and I will give you one of my multiple homes in the future.
Oh, Bernie and his yellow teeth. Maybe he'll give him some of his chiclets. What else do we have on
Bernie.
weekly? This weekly.
No,
whoopsies?
that's it. I kept
that
it
it?
at 4.
Okay.
That's it. I kept
Not
it
a
at
whole
4.
lot
Read
of
it straight from the
whoopsies.
source.
Yeah, only
Well,
4 whoopsies that were listed.
I kept it
out
at
of how
4.
many?
Oh, potentially? Holy shit, dude! I have you look. For those of you who are following us on Telegram, which is the old at you had me at Bigfoot podcast, or I'm sorry,
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know
trying
what
to read it there.
Oh, you
Yeah.
had me at Bigfoot on Telegram. Yeah, if you go there.
Okay, yeah. So for those of you who are following that, every time I throw something over there, that's where I get these from. And ask Tom whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, or in the middle of the old grinding work hours.
Yeah.
We're sending the best and brightest right over to that spot. And I just happened to choose the last 4 because I said, you know what? These are the least likely for anybody to have seen, and they're really good. So
Yeah, we get whoopsies round the clock. And
round the clock whoopsies.
For me, it's not really the weekly whoopsies. It's the
Every 5 fucking minutes.
Up to the minute whoopsies is how I would describe that, I suppose. So I want to talk about something because Jerry has asked me to stop being so long-winded on my end.
So ridiculous.
But I do want to talk about something real quick because we do have to wrap up, I think, at 11:30 at the latest. Because I got Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I'm very excited to play it. But more importantly, my wife and I have started watching a show called Euphoria. And many of you may have heard of it. It's on HBO. It's got Spider-Man's girlfriend in it, Zendaya. And I found out about it because I was watching, as you guys know, I'm super into Facebook Reels and Instagram Reels. So I'll just sit there and I'll flip through them forever. And one of them was a scene from Euphoria. And I had never seen the show at that point. And it was Zendaya beating on the door, yelling at her drug dealer and trying to get in and get some drugs or whatever. And she won an Emmy, a Primetime Emmy for that performance, or for her performance in that show. And the claim, it was somebody supposing that that scene is what won her the Emmy, which there's nothing to back that up. But it's not even her best performance. Frankly, having watched the series now, or we've watched the first season and a few of the episodes in the second season, and that's not even her best performance. But here's the thing about that show, because I didn't know what it was, and I had no interest in what I had not heard about it. I think I had seen it as I was scrolling through HBO. Like I see it, and when you look at the screen, it's just Zendaya, with the purple and like the colorful kind of like glitter type writing or whatever. It just did not look like it was something that appealed to me. But when I saw that scene, I was like, I wonder what this show, because just that tone of that scene was enough for me to be like, maybe I'll check this out. I look it up, and the plot is it's just teenagers in high school, and they're discovering their sexuality, drug abuse, violence, just all the terrible things that happen to teenagers in fictional TV land. Because this sort of thing doesn't really happen in real life, but they sensationalize it for TV. And it might happen once or twice, but it's not nearly as often as this show makes it seem. But what's up, Jerry?
Oh, I was just going to ask, is it, now, of course, I'm a little older than you, but I imagine you might remember my so-called life. Is it done like that, where there's like the sort of MTV back in the day restrictions of like exactly how kind of far they could go into certain things? Is it a little more mellow, or is this, oh my God, my boyfriend wants to take me to the prom, but that means butt stuff, and I don't have enough ecstasy? Like, is that, you know what I mean? Where are we at with the
latter? It's the latter. Now it's not a it's not a reality show, right? It's a very well produced, not a sitcom either, but it's a well produced TV show, right?
Sure, sure.
And not in the form of garbage reality TV show. It's very well done, and I can't stress that enough. Like as I'm watching it, I'm like, that's all I can think about. In some scenes, when I see it, the very artsy fartsy kind of way that they do some scenes, I'm like, this is really well done. Minus the content, right? You know, because you're like, look at the subject matter. And the best way that I can describe this in a way that people might appreciate and recognize the references, I would say if you were to say, hey man, let's get together and we'll have a movie night. I've got 4 or 5 really good movies I think we should watch. And then they're like, oh yeah, what's up? What movies did you bring? And I say, the movie 13. I don't know if you've ever seen that one about the 2 girls who are like 13 years old and they get into drugs and sex and they get in all sorts of trouble and it's like really awkward and uncomfortable, the interactions with the parents. The movie Kids. Have you seen that one?
Oh, dude. It's Don't worry, Jenny. It's me, Casper.
Yeah. That movie.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Mixed with...
I have no legs.
Mixed with Requiem for a Dream. I don't want to spoil Kids because, like, the ending for those of you who, for whatever reason, have been living under a rock for the last...
I literally just said it. So I hope that when they finally get to it... No. I want them to hear my voice when they finally get to it. Okay.
The movie Requiem for a Dream.
Right.
And Train Spotting. Now, remember how uncomfortable those movies made you feel in certain subject matter?
In certain scenes, I couldn't cringe harder, I think.
What's a movie that's just incredibly violent that doesn't need to be? Like, I don't know. How about that scene from The Punisher, the TV show, where he's, like, breaking out of jail and he fucking kills everybody, like, in the most violent way possible. Like, that as well. We're also going to watch that scene from The Punisher. Now, if we watch all those together, you kind of have an idea of what this show Euphoria is like. And, you know, it's an hour-long episode, each episode. So, I mean, there's plenty of stuff. And then, oh, by the way, what's a movie that has, like, a lot of really gratuitous nudity? Remember that sex scene with Billy Bob Thornton and Halle Berry in Monster Ball? Which should have just been called, that movie should have just been called Billy Bob Thornton's Balls. Because that's all you see in that scene. And it's very obvious that there was actual penetration. Now... that scene
Halle Berry
as well
was, dude, can I just say, by the way, Halle Berry was rewarded. People think she was rewarded with an Oscar for that scene. Tom, the answer is no. She was rewarded with the movie Catwoman.
Well, you know, that it's all how you look at it, Jerry. Some people probably consider that a reward, and those people,
the saucer. Some people think the saucer are half full.
Yeah, and those people who find that to be a reward or you know, something to be proud of are people who wear helmets at school. Now, this show Euphoria, there's so much graphic nudity, and not like the kind that you're okay with seeing, right? It's not like, okay, so these are all characters who are supposed to be teenagers. They're not. They're over 18.
Sure.
But, you know, they're playing underage kids. And so you have to deal with the fact that you're seeing nudity of what are supposed to be teenagers, underage nudity. And then also the dick to boobs ratio is not balanced. Okay, there is way more dick in that show than there is anything else. It's gotten to the point where I tell my wife, I tell her, this show should have just been called Dicks the TV show, because if you were to count how many dicks are on screen, or the amount of time that dicks are on screen for that show, you would be like, wow, Tom was right, this should have been called Dicks the TV show. And in fact, I might make that a picture. I might make the picture using the same font of the show, and it would just say Dicks the TV show. And you know,
I have to tell you, when I saw, because I had to look at what you were talking about, and there's a, you know, of course they have like the picture to sell you on it, like when you're scrolling through HBO Max, and you know, they have the little screenshot, you know, oh, Euphoria, and it was her, but it was like kind of side lit, like on almost what was that movie? Was it Flashdance, where the girl learned how to dance and then the bucket of water splashed on her and stuff? It looked like that, or potentially like a shitty HBO, like Cinemax porno.
Yeah, she's about
from
to get
back
a facial.
in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I saw that as the screenshot of this. Here's what we're selling you. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard
and I was
you don't get that from that picture.
Well, yeah, and so I saw that and I was like, that's what Tom is talking about? He's talking about softcore porn with the Spider-Man's girlfriend or the girl from Dune? What,
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I feel like I made a good
case
just now for it being a softcore porn with like I said, the amount of dicks. And it's gratuitous dick. It's not like, it's not like tasteful, okay, we saw it, come on, that's enough. It's like, it's there. It's very, and then it's not even just that. There's a lot of like really violent sexual stuff that,
oh boy,
the thing with this show, and I'll say this, I don't want to give anything away because I recommend it to everybody unconditionally. I recommend it to everybody. You'll either you might, and if you turn it off, I'm not going to hold it against you because it is a little much. But the thing is, it gives you, first of all, it shows you what these kids are dealing with right now, because there's so much stuff in it that kids are dealing with. Not necessarily do I think it's happening everywhere all the time and at this intensity. No, I don't think that's the case. But it's almost like if the perfect storm were to occur, this is what it looks like. And a lot of the characters, they each have their own vices, so it's not like every character is dealing with everything. But you see it all within this group of friends in this class in high school. But you see it, and you see like all the stuff that the kids are dealing with, and then you can better appreciate like, okay, this is the sort of stuff that I need to be prepared to talk to my kids about. This is the sort of stuff that I need to be aware of that my kids are going to have to deal with. And it's frankly, it's a little scary. But here's the thing that I find really funny about this show, and I'm gonna give away just a little bit, but not anything that you can't come back from. Zendaya, she's the main character, right? I didn't know who she was. I knew she was in Spider-Man, and I remember seeing her name, and I saw her with Tom Holland and all these things, and it always refers to her as Zendaya. And I'm like, so I finally asked my wife, I'm like, so wait a minute, who is this girl? Like, who does she think she is? She can just go by.
That girl?
Yeah. Who is she that she thinks that she can just use one name? Like, what is she? Cher? Prince? Like, you have to be a musician to do that sort of thing. Like, who does? And she's like, well, she is a musician. And I said, oh. So like, she was a musician.
Like a failed one, or
no? She's like, she was on the Disney Channel, and that was. I'm learning so much about this Zendaya character as I'm seeing her as this colossal fuck up in this show, that you're like, okay, like this is what happens to all the Disney stars, right? But here's the thing about the show that I will give away. You start out seeing Zendaya, because the way the episodes are framed up, it's like, hey, here's the backstory of this character, and then the episode goes on as regularly scheduled. But you see like this intro before the title card, where it shows the backstory of a character. And Zendaya, she's the first one. She plays a girl named Rue, and she's like, hey, I'm a piece of shit. I'm a drug addict. I do this, and she's like, she explains, she's very like forthcoming about it. She's like, I suck. I don't know how to, control my life. I'm a big hot mess. And, I make every single bad decision that a teenager can make. Especially when it comes to drugs. And she's just like, but I would never lie to you. That's who I am. And I'm like, well, I don't like, as I'm watching, I'm like, well, I don't like her at all, and that's the attitude that you have about her going into it. She's like, I can't imagine. I got to see these other upstanding characters in this show because I'm not rooting for this girl, and then as you go and you see all these other characters, I'm still finding new characters that I hate, because I get to learn a little bit more about them, and I'm knee deep into the second season, but I'm still like, every single time you think you've got a character where you're like, all right, that's the one that I like that one, then they show like a backstory, or you see them do something that you're like, well, that was pretty fucked up of them to do. I don't like that person anymore. So I realize, I'm like, after so long, I'm like, wait a minute, Rue's the good one. Like, she's the good guy. She's the character that you're supposed to like. And she's a piece of shit. Like, everybody on this show fucking sucks. And then, but then there's one character, he's a drug dealer. I said the only character in this show that has any doggone integrity is the drug dealer, and like everybody else is garbage, and I hate everybody else. But no, it's so much fun. I really enjoy the show. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in, and I don't blame people for turning it off, but. Avert your eyes for my new favorite program, Dix, the TV show, and give it a try if you're looking for a new program. It's something else, and I think you might get a kick out of it. Jerry, did you have anything else before we dive into this week's episode? Did you have anything exciting that happened this week that you wanted to talk about?
Well, no, I mean, anything that I might have mentioned. Now I'm so. Like wrapped up in what you just said, and here's why. And I don't want to have to drift off into stuff, so we may just leave it as I have a comment, I guess. But I remember last week we discussed briefly people's intake of pornography. You know what I'm saying? And I'm listening to you, and I'm hearing, okay, so wait a minute. If we loosen the definition of the term pornography. Like, because food porn, violence porn, this, that.
Yeah, gore
basically,
porn.
Gore, all of it. Basically, everything you just said.
It's pornography. It really is.
It's pornography. And I'm sitting here going, I'm watching the chat. And I remember from last time, people in the chat going, good for you, Tom, for not watching pornos anymore. Good for you. And all this sort of stuff. And then I'm looking at the chat now. And they're going, I was looking to watch that. That was going to be my next thing or whatever, I mean, there is one where Mike is saying, I love the fact that Tom watches stuff so I don't have to. But, in general, there are some people.
He's too pure for this show. I don't know why he's still here. God bless him.
He's
the only reason you had me at Bigfoot is getting into heaven, I think.
He brings it back around. But yeah, so that was basically it. Is I don't know what to say about it exactly.
So, okay.
But if I'm going to connect it,
you brought a good point.
If I'm going to connect it back to an old conversation we had talked about the metal, the very demonic metal, satanic metal, and all that, and we had the game show, and it was fantastic. But at some point in that conversation, you and I kind of, I brought it up, and you've emphatically agreed with me, and it's not that stuff that you have to worry about. That is so obvious that it's a joke and easily explained away, or your impressionable youth probably think it's a joke, let alone whatever, just because of how insane it is. It's the Britney Spears stuff, it's the Christina Aguilera stuff, it's the sexuality they put on, it's the cutaway shots to feet during all of Dan Schneider's Disney shows. It's you understand.
And can I just say thank God for Dan Schneider's cinematography? Oh, wait. Am I still recording? Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness, Tom. I think you have the wrong camera on.
Oh, no,
goodness.
I'm watching Euphoria again. Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess this falls into the category for me, not that it excuses even occasional watching of porn, but I just want to sit here, and I'm not trying to be the Amish guy here or something like that. But I'm just
going, and I agree.
But I'm just trying to kind of point out the contradiction here, where it's like, well, okay, nobody watch porn, man, fucking porn. I mean, sure, that porn was probably created and produced by most of the stars, and sure, they're damaged people who just are trying to own their own stuff and make a career later on, and it's an imperfect situation, and there's a lot of terrible shit going on. You can never. Right, but it's like, oh, here, like say some like Lisa Ann or something, or someone like that who has podcasts. She did sports casting. She took over all her own videos and this and that and the other. Don't watch her, that entrepreneurial cunt. Don't watch her, but go watch this show Euphoria. Which if your kids get anywhere near this show, you're gonna have a real fucking problem.
Oh yeah.
Let alone for your own brain. And it's like, and everybody's like, I was thinking of watching that.
So here's the thing, Jerry.
Okay.
And I will.
Yes.
The only reason I'm going to push back at you, because you're right.
I need it.
You're right.
Okay.
It's wrong to watch a lot of the stuff that we watch. There's no way around that. The stuff that I watch, I don't consider stuff that's on. Okay, so Game of Thrones, right? I've never watched it, not because I have any kind of like interest in having the moral high ground. Like, oh no, I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've seen it in passing because my wife watched it and she enjoys it. But I've never gotten into it, and I understand there is a great deal of nudity in it.
Oh, a huge deal, yeah.
Yeah.
Violence too, of course,
But would you consider that porn, or would you consider that kind of an artsy, and not and again, let's broaden the terminology here, artsy, tasteful nudity that is not necessarily necessary to the plot or the story, but it's there to kind of give it an authentic feel, right?
Yeah. So if I'm going to answer that properly, I think, okay, so if we in our society can accept violent movies, like say if you're going to tell a war story, there's going to be violence. Or if you're going to tell a period piece, you're pretty much, oh, is it going to be in the Pilgrim Puritan days? Well, you're probably going to see some witches be burnt, like that kind of thing. If you have to accept that, and in Game of Thrones, it's like, well, it's this sort of medieval battle, thing. I mean, you're going to just have tons of violence. Well, then at the same time, for the gratuitous amount of violence and sometimes fucked up violence, okay, that you see on the show that no one really talks about. Okay, is it weird to see like a naked midget running around screwing whores all the time, or any expansion, any variation of that statement? Well, it's less than the violence. It's less than the backstabbing. It's less. Now, when you start going into the incest or things like that, you start going,
was that necessary?
Is it necessary? It's like you couldn't think another way that those siblings would have a weird connection to each other. Did you have to have it actually happen rather than a strange affection, or something?
Or even just alluding to it.
That's what I'm saying. Just like, eyes,
So I think a lot of that has to do with shock value too, and to kind of they can get away with something new, and they want to do it because then it causes you to talk about it. You're like, because this is what's happening right now. This is free advertisement for Game of Thrones for people who want to see midgets running around screwing each other, or screwing other people, like full-sized people. Or tasteful, politely declining a woman that he was recently married to. I saw that scene where he was just like, no, like very kind, like he's lying on the thing. He's like, no, I'm not going to fuck you or whatever. So,
well, he actually had some morality where she was a teenager. That's, by the way, just so you know.
So, okay, so let me do this. Let me say this. Most of the stuff that we watch, depending on so if we even just eliminate our faith from this, like if we were to say, okay, let's just leave Christianity out of this and let's talk about it from a moral kind of thing. Should we be looking at naked people? I mean, this is consensual, I suppose, so that's okay. Should we be? But our brains scientifically, and you can read the studies on this, but if you watch violence and if you watch nudity and you watch certain things, even if it's choreographed and in a film, acted, using special effects and all sorts of stuff, no matter what they do to make something that didn't happen look as though it happened, your brain in its deepest points can't tell the difference.
Yeah, it takes it as real. I mean, why else would you, like, for example, right, when I told my wife at the end of Lord of the Rings that Frodo kills himself, sorry for the spoilers, everybody, I guess, but, when he gets on that ship that's going into the, what is it, the Deadland, I don't remember what it's called, but essentially, Bilbo's going, the Elrond is going, Gandalf's going, basically every old fucker whose time has passed is going, so you get the idea. And then Frodo gets on, and it's like, oh yeah, he's a soldier with PTSD after World War II, and he can't get back to his old life, and he's going to kill himself. And I told my wife that, and of course you watch those 3 movies, and it's 10 hours if you watch the expanded ones, and all these sorts of things, and the violence, the relationships, the struggles of this, and then suddenly he's killing himself. Why am I bawling? Why is my wife bawling? It's because your brain became friends with that person for the last 10 hours, the binging, the whole thing, and then now to you, he's really killing himself, at least in that moment. Your brain, that goes to that thing. So yeah, of course it does. And that's why I don't exactly believe when people say, oh, video games have nothing to do with anything. It's like, dude, depending on the game you're watching or playing, you may be an active participant, which may lessen the impact, but you're literally watching, like say if you just play Call of Duty 24 hours a day, it's like, I think you might. I don't know.
People who play Call of Duty end up with PTSD, like legitimate shell shock from playing World War II Call of Duty. But here's the thing: you were talking, and I want to make mention of this.
Okay.
I don't think of that as porn. I don't think of the stuff that, even though I'm seeing. Okay, here you go. Here's one for you, Jerry. When you go to the Y, and you're in the locker room, and you see an old man walk around the lockers naked, as old men do in the Y. You see an old man walk around and his dick is hanging out. Would you consider that porn? Yes or no?
If there were options for me not to see a stranger's penis and they didn't take...
It's there. It pops up in
front
of you.
No. Here's what I mean.
Okay.
It's on them. Yeah, you understand. I'm at the Y for the pool. I'm taking my laps in the pool. I'm not there for the old man dicks. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's not like, for example, I'll give you one, and this is a Boy Scout story real quick. No, it's not totally gay, but it's a little gay. There was a camping, the start of a big camping trip, and it was a statewide thing, and we were at I believe Camp Sequoia, and there was this really old guy sitting on the bench with his legs crossed, wearing the old Boy Scout shorts, very, very short shorts, and we're all standing there being bored to tears by these, old guys telling us what was going to happen and how you're going to act and all this sort of shit. And then, we kind of noticed the old guy on the bench, and his legs are crossed, but then
he's got a little bubble gum there.
There's a trail, there's a drooping of that, and we called him literally droopy, nearly to his face, for the entire week-long camping trip. And I guess what I'm trying to say is
bubble gum. Like, did it look like bubble gum?
Oh, dude, I don't remember that.
All right, listen.
Here's the thing: I don't remember that much hair being in bubble gum.
Okay, well, you've never seen bubble gum left on the street. We used to when we'd wear our uniforms or whatever, and we'd get a rip in the crotch area, just a little crotch or a little rip. Pull our ball sack through the rip, just like some of the skin. And then we would say, "Oh, dude, I sat in bubble gum, right?" And
oh yeah. Oh, okay, I got yeah.
So if you see an old man with his bubble gum between his legs, and then here's the other thing. So my point.
Well, so the point is, if the old man has the choice of wearing a towel and not, then you are pushing your penis into my vision.
Okay, and exactly.
And you know what I'm saying?
Let me jump in here real quick because
you got it.
I didn't come to Euphoria for the dicks, even though the show should have been called Dicks, the TV show. I didn't come for the dicks, and I didn't come for the boobs, and I didn't come for the gratuitous shots of the artsy kind of shots of sex or whatever that are there for the story. I mean, alluding to it wouldn't have the same value, I think, as showing some of the stuff that they show. And certainly some of the scenes, they're designed to make you hate the character. Like I said, you hate everybody. Like, there's some characters that you just you're like, well, I'm kind of rooting for this character even though I hate that character, but I hate that character. And here's why: because he fucked a tranny, right? Graphically, on screen.
Wow.
Now, that was my other point. So if that sort of stuff bothers you, just look away from the screen is what I do. If there's graphic, obvious nudity, in your face nudity, you just avert your eyes, and it's that simple. That's all I do whenever there's some kind of gratuitous nudity. But I also don't think that watching something and boobs or dick being thrust into your vision is the same as going to YouPorn and typing interracial, deep dick in or whatever. Dicks. Yeah, or whatever, piss porn, piss play or whatever. That's different, right? Somebody typing that sort of shit into YouPorn.
Yeah. There's a seeking, there's a searching, there's a...
Right. There's some obvious... And plus, I'm not sitting there jerking off to Euphoria. I don't know that I could, to be honest, because... and I'll tell this story because sometimes we tell embarrassing, or not embarrassing stories, but personal stories. My wife and I wanted to be intimate last night after watching some of that show, and it took me. Now I'm not going to sit here and say that it takes me a long time or whatever, or what a long time is to get up. Normally, and I'm not going to sit here and brag about it, but I'll tell you this: I'm normally hey, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm up and at 'em. because I'm
Sure.
only 36 years old. I'm up and at 'em. I'm ready to go. I'm not experiencing any of that stuff. We were watching that show, and all the dicks and all the LGBT stuff that happens in that show. I'm like, I said it took me 30 seconds, which is a long time for me to get there, right? I said, I promise this has nothing to do with you. I said, I am just trying to, get all this stuff out of my head for a second so that we can do this. But here's the thing that I'm talking about with the LGBT stuff, and then we'll bounce on. What you said about Satan stuff being like very obvious.
Right.
That stuff, you kind of like overlook it because you're just like, okay, that's fake. Nobody's going to buy that. But then you see the stuff that kind of seems innocent enough, and it doesn't necessarily, like you said, it doesn't necessarily it obviously seems like it's okay. Hey, this is okay. Come on in, hear me out, pull up a chair, sit down, have a spell, we'll tell the story. It's welcoming, it's inviting, kind of like we talked about with the tiger last week, right? It's it's comforting, and you kind of get roped into it that way, and then before you know it, you're like sacrificing babies because you're like, well, everybody seemed so nice up until this point. Nothing seemed weird. Like everything seemed really normal up until this point. There's a character in the show who is a male to female transgender, and I'll admit, I'm gonna here's a little bit of vulnerability. I sometimes feel bad for this character, and you guys know how I feel about the transgender community. I feel for this character to some degree because and I've caught myself when we refer to this character Jules. I will, when my wife and I are talking about the show, I'll say, and she does such and such. It's not a she, very convincing she, because on the first episode she's stabs the syringe, and for the sake of just speeding this along, I'll just refer to her by her preferred nomenclature or whatever, or pronoun or whatever. God, which is not like my normal thing, but like I said, at least she's trying, right? But on the first episode, I was like, that is an ugly chick, right? Like you see, and she's wearing like the tank top or whatever, in like the goofy dress, and I'm like, what an elaborate like little get up that this person, and we make the jokes about how once somebody is convinced or like they want to transition, they forget what the other gender looks like, and they just have to like guess and do their best, and they find like the most absurd outfit. And that's kind of what this was. And I saw like she stabbed herself in the thigh with something, and
holy shit.
My wife was like, a syringe. She's like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. I said, there wasn't enough context at that point. I said, unless, because she kind of looks like a guy. Maybe it's a guy, and maybe those are hormones or whatever. And then, sure enough, as the show progressed, you learn that it's actually that it's a dude or a tranny from the beginning. But like you see this and you feel for this character, and they make the character like you hate the freaking tranny anyways for some other shit, but she's like manipulative in her character towards this other character in the show, and you kind of feel for everybody in that regard, in that particular circumstance. But it's like I found myself feeling for this tranny, and I was like, wait a minute, no. And if I, like the most staunch hater of the trans community, if I'm feeling for this tranny, like, oh man, come on, Jules, you deserve better than, like I'm cheering this character on, and if I'm doing that, like imagine the kids, right? Who tune in, or people who see it who aren't, or who are maybe like borderline, like, or maybe neutral on the subject. They're just like, oh yeah, okay, the trans community as a whole is represented by this character who we all kind of know and love from this program, and we can appreciate their plight. We see the plight of this character, Jules, and we understand that's the case of the entire LGBT community, which it's not. But then you get to like into this whole thing about mental illness, and so if you look at it, depending on the perspective that you come at it from, and when you're evaluating and you're kind of doing some kind of like hermeneutical, trying to figure out what's going on and develop a position on it, you can really go in many different directions on like, okay, well, this character, I would just love to, I'm not enough to where I'll listen to a commentary or anything or read about it, but like I would just love to know what's really going on in the director's head, or in the creator's head, just to see what they're trying to do with these characters and what their actual intent is. Because, you know, there's always going to be the front that they put on when they're talking about, well, you know, the LGBT community is blah, 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 blah. They'll put on that, but I would wonder if deep down they're like, I fucking hate the LGBT community, and I am trying to like convey that in a way that is friendly on the surface, but once you dig deeper, you realize what I was trying to do with that character. You know, like it's so weird. But yeah, like you said, these characters or these situations, they rope people in. And they seem innocent enough, and especially this chick Zendaya. She was a Disney actress, or, you know, and a singer, like a pop star for these kids. And kids are like, "Oh, Zendaya, oh, MJ from fucking Spider-Man." You know, like all these people are gonna see that. Then they're gonna come to Euphoria, like, "Hey, what did she won a Primetime Emmy? I'd love to watch that show." They watch it. They see how cool drugs are. They see how normal LGBT is. They see how like lying to your family and living double lives and drug dealing and violence and this way, they see all this stuff and they're like, oh, this is normal. This is what kids are experiencing in these schools. So in my school, you know, it's okay for me to experience these things. So I'm going to go ahead and go out and do them anyways, because that's just the norm. But yeah, that's, I would never let my kids watch the show. And you guys know, I let my kids watch everything. My big thing is I don't let them watch nudity or let them see nudity, and they know to turn away. Sometimes they'll turn away, like we were watching Scream and fucking Courtney Cox Arquette and David Arquette were kissing on the screen, and they all like averted their eyes. I'm like, they're kissing in public. They're not gonna do anything. You can look at the screen. You know, if it gets weird or whatever, then yeah, look away. But yeah, I would never let my kids watch this show. Never, because it is just, it's so much. It's too much. Even just the subject matter, not just the dicks, not the boobs, not the nudity, none of that stuff. That is bad, but like just the content is so, it's too much for kids right now.
Can I tell you, it is hilarious. Like I appreciate the depth that you went through. I appreciate all your reasoning. But I love that at the end of the statement is, look, it's not just the dicks. It's not just the dicks.
That's gonna be like on my tombstone.
That's it, right? You know, there's like some sort of self-statement in that. Just, hi, I'm Tom. Look, it's not just the dicks, and then you know, cut away. That's it.
I'm selling cereal. Commercial? It turns out.
yeah. You know, it's like all those Stone Toss cartoons. I don't know if you ever seen those before. Oh, yeah. But it's like, you know, two guys kissing or whatever, and they're like, how is this supposed to help us sell cars? They're like, cars? Cars? Yeah, but it was just sort of like the antithesis of that, just hearing you go on, and then at the end just be like, look, it's not just dicks.
I'm really trying to sell the show because I think it's for there's a number of reasons why I would encourage anybody to watch it. Young parents or parents of teenage kids or whatever, you should watch it so you know what's going on, what your kids are going to have to deal with, what they could potentially deal with. You know, young people who are, you know, teenagers, I would say, even older teenagers, seeing this sort of thing. And I would allow my children to watch it probably when they're in high school with me. I would allow them to watch it so I could have a conversation with them, an age-appropriate conversation, say, hey, I get it. Like, I know some of it didn't happen to me because we grew up in a different time. Like, some of this stuff just wasn't happening. And then, you know, a lot of it just didn't apply.
I remember the big scandal in my day was that girls who were slightly older than me had jeans with zippers in the back.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big deal for us.
For me, it was, what was my scandal? Gosh. It would have been the 2000s is kind of when I was in later high school. So, gosh, we didn't have any. I remember Columbine school shootings was kind of my controversy. Yeah. So we didn't really have any kind of like sex controversy other than Bill Clinton getting a blowjob in the Oval Office. All right. Yeah, that's it for. Now I'm done. I'm done shilling for fucking Euphoria. I think, yeah. If you watch it and if you can.
Our new sponsor is HBO Max. Please use
Yeah,
discount code. You had me at Big Dicks.
You had me at Dicks. The TV.
You had
show.
me at Dicks.
All right, what are we talking about today, Jerry? I want you to do it because I don't think I gave you enough information to like speak intelligently about even the topic that we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks. Well, you're right about that. And so, all right, guys. Do you ever?
Oh hell! You know what?
No. Wait.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't even get to try.
No,
all right,
no,
here we go.
no. I was gonna say we forgot to do the welcome to the show.
Oh, the shots. Oh, the shots and the hellos and stuff. Yeah.
I like how you say shots. Like I'm gonna do 2 shots every week. That's not happening.
Not every week, but it did happen last week.
Last week, after the show, I was so sick.
Real. Oh no.
I thought it was COVID. I thought it was Omicron.
It was that bad?
Yeah,
wow.
It was terrible.
My goodness.
I almost didn't get to sleep a full 8 hours. Tom,
did you check your gunshots for COVID? Is that how you knew?
I did. I took the test strip and I dabbed it into my gunshot wound. And that's
you keep an open wound at all times?
Yeah,
oh shit! I feel a little bit.
You have to. You just got to keep picking your bullet wound scab.
That's it.
No, I think it was the pickle vodka because I was sitting there sipping, and it's so good. It really is. But I think like mostly it's pickle juice. So I was very very sick for like I was puking. I'm sorry. That night I was fine. The following day when I woke up, I went on that hunt with the falconer, and I had to shit so bad, like while I was out in the woods with him, and I felt like I had to puke too. So I thought I was either gonna have to like stop, and this guy that I had just met, this falconer who I was trying to get to be my sponsor.
No.
I thought I was gonna have to stop and take a shit in front of him, and be like, "Hey man, I'm very very sick. I don't know what happened or whatever."
Dude, listen, I'm sorry. I have a pickle shit. I'm sorry.
I have to take a mad pickle shit puke. But I made it through that just fine. And I'm on my way home, and I'm at the Pokestop, and I'm doing a Pokemon battle or whatever at the gym. And I felt the like overwhelming urge to shit. And I was like, I gotta go. I gotta get home, run home. And I'm just shitting and puking the rest of the day and night.
Oh no!
And it was awful. Jesus. And finally, I thought I was gonna lose like a lot of weight. I did not, but like I ate all day too. Once it kind of subsided, I ate a lot of food, and it didn't go anywhere. It just stopped right there, and it sat. And then the next day, I puked everything up while I was shitting. Like I jumped off the toilet.
Oh no!
And I like opened the shower because I'm not gonna puke into a toilet that I just shit in. But I'm puking into the shower, and then I had to clean the shower too, and it was just it was a terrible situation. So never again am I going to drink that much pickle juice vodka. Never.
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, I love how Mosley Wave just gave up. Nope. Yeah. Evening, folks. Bye bye.
No, I think he's here. He just showed up just in time for the.
Oh, as in like hello, evening, folks. Oh, I see. I thought it was literally just, the out both ends story.
You know who I would think would leave during that discussion would be the Stephicus 2010. That's the individual that I would imagine would leave during that. Maybe Critter Me Timbers, but only because she's a lady. I wouldn't expect her to sit through that sort of discussion.
I was going to say, Tom, if you're ticking off all the boxes of getting the females to leave, you talked about how it took you a little while to get revving up to go with your wife. Then you talked about shitting and puking.
Shitting, puking. Also, I talked about a great deal about dicks.
And listen.
Me watching dicks. Nobody wants to watch a guy watch dicks, right?
No one wants to hear a story from Tom about his dick watching.
No, nobody wants that. All right, so here's now I have to restructure I don't know who was here. I know J-Dubs was here first for the second start when I started over the stream, but I think on the old one it was Jake Hoob, and then Mike in Manitoba, and then Dash, who we don't know who that is. J-Dubs, Megabit, Xavier Waffles, Stephicus, Critter Me Timbers, Efren Flores, and Mostly Wave. What are we cheersing to, Jerry? We've kind of given them a lot to.
Oh yeah, I want to
they
cheers
can.
to it not being dicks.
Oh, okay. So to not dicks.
You know, it's not always. It's not about the dicks.
It's not just the dicks.
It's
Jerry.
not just the dicks. You know.
It's been a while since I've had any of this Lafroig.
Mm.
10-year stuff, but you know.
Okay. I do want to say, by the way, Steph is hanging in. She's hanging in.
Still there.
Yeah, she says it's all right. A lot of
I think
laughy faces.
She's one of the individuals who watches it on their TV in their living room. Believe it or not.
Oh dear Lord! Could you imagine you on a big screen telling that story?
Oh, we were. I imagine we were.
By the way, I used to watch the show on my TV.
Oh, did you?
Just so you know. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Well then. Well, why don't you on a big screen right now tell us what we're talking about this week, Jerry?
Okay, so the way it was described to me is that there's a situation we're going to get into, like we're 1920s cops, and then, but the story has a potential paranormal influence. And the example, I believe I remember, and I always forget the name. It's the Dyatlov Pass. I don't know if I'm saying that.
Dog, yeah. The Dyatlov Pass.
Dyatlov Pass. That famous story, Beelzebub's passing of the torch to the gas.
Dyatlov, yeah.
Dyatlov. That old gag, okay? It's very similar. And we have to solve it because no one else has. That's what, to my understanding, that's what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing, Jerry. We are.
Oh my goodness! Here we are.
For those of you who have, old school, you had me at Bigfoot fans. We're doing. This is a Swingin' Dicks episode. Now, if there was some clever intro music that we would do for the Swingin' Dicks, this is where we would do it, because we are returning. We've taken our badge and our gun, and we've returned to the force after a brief administrative leave of absence for kneeling on too many black people, and we are going to talk about another situation that was unsolved, and we consider this to be the Dyatlov Pass Part 2. It was Khamar Daban, which is...
That is not a rapper.
Yeah. I know it sounds like a SoundCloud rapper, Jerry. You had to guess on that episode some time ago. This is Khamar Daban is a mountain.
My nizzle.
No, what is it? Blocka Flocka.
It's a block. I got the Flocka on my Blocka, and my girl is proper. So.
And what else did she have?
Oh, AIDS, I think.
She's writing. She's writing.
Shada. Oh, Shada.
Shada. There you go.
Yeah,
good. See,
that's right.
I'm glad I didn't have to give you the whole world.
I know. Just half.
Megabit says, "Just one more case, partner." And that's what we're doing today. We're gonna talk about this Khamar Daban.
Okay.
I was trying to think of some other shit. Lil Khamar Daban. It's actually, you know what?
Kendrick Lamar Daban.
Yeah, that's the guy.
There it is.
It's actually Russian for nut pass, like nut, N-U-T.
All right, look, Tom, we have to really get you off of dicks, because
I can't. Help
it's even leaking into. Hold on, Tom. Wait.
Please
this
don't.
is my quote for the show.
It's not just the dicks.
Your dicks are leaking all over this show.
I'm going to take that out of context, and I'm going to make that be your picture.
That's what I'm saying. I'm asking for it. I'm here.
I had selected this before I started watching Dicks the TV show, an HBO production.
Oh, I see.
All right, so it has nothing to do with my newfound love of dicks.
I see. Okay.
Now that's going to be my out of context.
That's going to be your out.
With my
there it was.
Newfound love. Now it's located in southern Siberia, which is in Russia. In case you didn't know, it is. I'm just going to give you some factoids about.
Oh, okay.
This Khamar Daban, Lil Khamar It's 2,396 meters high, or 7,861 feet for those of us who use a system that makes more sense.
The real system?
Yeah,
exactly.
The only one as far as I'm concerned. Everybody, and everyone kind of know. It's kind of like how English is kind of the language that everybody knows. As a secondary language, they have to learn it, whereas we don't have to learn anything because everybody else learns English. It's kind of the same way. Everybody else learns the English system, the imperial system, or in addition to the metric system. So they're like, when are you going to switch to the metric system? Why would we? When you guys put our system like on the signs too.
Yeah.
Now, for the record high temperature for this Khamar Daban is 80 for August. Now, the events, I have to clarify, the events that take place here happened in August. The high was 87.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and the low was 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so just so you have kind of a frame of reference, between 20 and 87 degrees is kind of like the temperature. Pretty reasonable temperatures, right?
Sure.
I think we're all pretty used to those temperatures, except for Mike in Manitoba, who's never gotten into the double digits in Celsius, even. No, in Fahrenheit. Yeah, I guess that would make more sense.
Yes.
Now, the events that we're about to talk about, I wanted to do this. I wanted to prepare the Texas Chainsaw Massacre intro. You know how it's like, it kind of sounds like the rust being scraped, and then like the bending metal, and then there's like the soft music, the scary music in the background. I wanted to have that playing while I said just this next line, but I realized, I'm like, the amount of effort it would take for me to get all
just
that
to have
together,
that one.
It's not worth it. But I was gonna say, the events we're about to cover occurred in August 1993, and that was it. I was like, oh, it'd be so funny if we had that. It'd be so great if we could have that. But then I was like, it's literally like 8 words. I'm not gonna go. And sometimes I have to like create these sound effects, and I'm not into it. I should have become one of those guys. What are they called? Gaffer? Is it a gaffer?
Sound engineer?
No, gosh dang it. What's the people that make the sounds? It's
the guy, the black guy from Police Academy?
Well, sort of. No, the guys who I just read a book by Chuck Palahniuk about somebody who does this. They make the sounds for movies, because
Oh, yeah. This was the I Love You Man. Jason, what's his name, did that in the movie. They both shared a love of the band Rush, but he was Sarah
music.
Marshall.
Yeah, forget Sarah Marshall. He played the song about the vampire or whatever. Man,
right.
It'll come to me eventually. But anybody who can remember who the people are that sit in like the soundproof studio and they beat on like a watermelon to make it sound like a human head being crushed.
Right, you're squishing the head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's those guys. And man, it's such a cool job. Like, but I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it's like, hey Steve, yeah. Can you figure out a way to recreate the sound of taking your finger into an open eye socket?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have grapes, and I have, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He's just
and that's exactly what they do, and it's
grapes,
so cool. Like when you break a bone on screen or whatever, they take lettuce and they like crunch it, and I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they find new ways to do it based on what they have in front of them on the screen. Like they watch the movie and they try to,
Frankly,
like,
of course, right.
Sound.
Do you think they still do it that way now, though? Like with all the digital?
They do still.
Really?
They do still do it. Yeah. It's really cool. Like I'm telling you, this book I just read is called now I can't remember
the art of
the book.
The fart of the deal.
Yeah, that might as well be. Yeah, but no, it was a decent book. It's about like this chick who kills people and she records their screams, and then she uses those. Chuck Palahniuk does all sorts of weird shit with his book. So this book, I'm not going to give anything away, but like the dude, he's an ex-cop and he's like trying to solve the kidnapping of his young child from like 10 years ago. But at the same time, this chick is...
That's a really late start to try to care about your
Well,
kid,
no, he's just a really shitty private investigator because he's been doing it for 10 years. And he still hasn't found her. And but
I was going to say, the way you phrased it made it sound like he waited 10 years.
He
I was like, what else were you doing?
He was trying to figure out. He was trying to save up for the equipment he would need to go save his daughter. He was like saving up for like top end. He's like, no, we're not getting Sony. We have to get the Panasonic shit.
Dude, could you imagine? Every time I went to buy a tape recorder, they'd come out with something new. So I'm not going to spend the money on the tape recorder. I'm going to wait for the digital one. And the digital one, of course, when they first come out, it has all these glitches, and I can't afford it. Now I got to save again.
He's
then
just
they go
got
on
like a ton of tape recorders.
It's just the newest model. He's like, I can't start until I have the latest model.
I can't save my daughter until I have the new Vizio M600 model
Exactly.
tape, digital V8 high 8 tape.
What if I get a confession and it's all warbling?
Yeah, who wants that? Like, what if there's some kind of interference from some kind of UHF frequency or whatever that I was not expecting. And plus I gotta learn how to do it. And by the time I learn it, one time I almost did it because I tried to learn how to use the tape recorder to its proper specifications. And I read the manual, I downloaded the PDF, and then I watched a bunch of YouTube stuff. By the time I figured it all out, there was a new model that came out, and I just had to upgrade. And then I had to start over again. So yeah, who knows where my daughter is? She might be like somewhere. She might be somewhere living her own life, having a bunch of kids and shit.
My daughter actually emailed me. I completely missed it. The whole
he was
time.
so busy learning how to use his tape recorders, he never checked his email.
That's it.
And she's
like,
so
hyper focused. I had to sell my computer to buy this top end tape recorder.
He's so good at his job that like he forgot to do the basic meaningless mundane shit like check his email, which would have saved him.
Ironically,
so much time.
His daughter used to be a secretary. You know what I mean? Oh shit!
He forgot to pay his phone bill, and she's been calling him this whole time. All right. Let me show you some pictures here.
Tom, do you feel like we just solved it?
I think we did. I think we're good. All right. So we haven't even talked about what the heck happened here. So I have two versions, Jerry, that I want you to know. Okay. I have the version that I've kind of like summarized what happened, and I can give you like the events, how it happened according to the survivor. There was only one survivor, by the way. I can give you the events based on how she described them in the most concise way possible. Or, and I prefer this one personally. It's a little bit longer, but I think it's probably better. There's an article that was written about this woman's confession or her testimony to the police. There was an article that was written in Russia where she testified. And it was lazily translated by a very liberal Google Translate. And I could read that article, which kind of describes what happened. And you guys can hear it that way. Or you can hear it the more concise way where I kind of typed it up and I can give you the step-by-step. Which one do you want to hear? Or which one do you want to hear first? We can do whichever one you want.
Well, Tom, here's the thing. Well, maybe the chat can let us know while we're talking about this, but I'm honestly afraid of something here. I think in just you telling me that there's a female sole survivor, I've already solved it.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you, Jerry, one of the theories that I have written here, and I wish I could show it to you guys, the final theory that I have written down here, Valentina Udachenko killed them all. Is that what you were gonna say?
No, Tom.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we got different
no, there's a good reason for this. There's a well-researched historical precedent reason for this. Okay. As most fans of horror flicks, murderous flicks will tell you, if they went on a trip and she was the only girl not to have sex, she survives.
Okay. So you think it was Jason Voorhees?
Well, don't forget Michael would, also be a little lenient in that way.
I think
and
Freddy
a lot
Krueger
of
was pretty. He was pretty lenient about it. He never really went after somebody who just because they had sex or.
Right, and then if you remember all like sort of the B-level ones, like say Sleepaway Camp Parts 1 through 88 or whatever it was, and all those. Almost every single time, those who had not engaged in sexual acts, right, exactly, they were the winners. So I'm going to guess that the other ones all just got down and dirty real quick. And she was like, guys, we know what happens, you know? And then, well, here we are talking about them all this time later.
I couldn't agree more. I think you did just solve. she just was a loser. So that's your answer. She was a loser.
Yeah, she was ugly.
Well, I got to tell you, Jerry, I'm a little concerned about where your head's at because 3 of these individuals were underage. Three of these individuals were underage. So you're over here talking about underage sex, and then the other 4 were they were overage. So are we talking about a statutory rape situation, or are we talking about an underage orgy? Crap. Because either way,
wow,
I'm concerned where your head's at.
Well, listen, I wouldn't be concerned about me. What I'm doing is giving you a historical precedence here. In other words, if I was to tell you about what happened, let's say on a television show, let's call it Boophoria, for example, and it was nothing but gratuitous dicks, you wouldn't suddenly say, Jerry, my goodness, where's your head at talking about all these gratuitous dicks? You would instead be saying, oh my goodness, how did you survive that television show experience, right? And I'd say, well, there's historical precedence for that. For example, for 8 seasons, I sat through midget dicks on Game of Thrones. And therefore, I was able to build up the tolerance against the evil of other massive dick shows, like Boophoria. And so in this case, I'm saying, look, do I agree with how they went about what they were doing? Of course not. Is it absolutely reasonable to say a bunch of dirty old people did some things with some drunk on Russian potato vodka young people, and then the only girl in the middle is like, I don't fit on either side of these, and she leaves, right? And maybe she set fire to all of them, and that fits right, maybe her morals. She said, this is just, I thought I was friends with these people, and it turns out it's just a big bag of droopy dicks and balls. And
isn't that always the case?
That's it, and
doesn't it always end up being just a bag of dicks?
It's a bag of dicks. That's it, and so she set the bag of dicks on fire. That's it.
I don't think that's how it went down. But I also, right. Well, I've read the theories, and I don't think.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't even know what we're talking about, really.
In what I've read, I don't remember there being much mention of the dick.
Of fire or balls.
As you were talking, I don't know what I was going or where I was going with, but I was going to interrupt you, and I was going to say, I have this quote that I wrote down because I wanted to do something with it, but maybe it was something along the lines of, I really like the show Euphoria. I just wish there were fewer dicks. Is like I think I was going to interrupt you somewhere and say something like that. So since nobody in the chat intervened, what I'm going to do?
Yeah, my goodness.
I'm going to.
What's going on, guys?
I'm going to read as I page through some of these pictures.
Okay.
Which now let me remind you, this occurred in 1993. Despite
Seriously?
Pictures looking like they were taken in the late 1800s.
Yeah, dude, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did these people all go to that movie's Midsummer? Like,
Jerry,
did they?
Yeah, well, we don't talk about that movie on this show. I actually, the first time I watched it, I thought that movie was just not very good. And then I've watched it, it's grown on me, and I really like it.
Really? Wow.
I'm telling you, the more you watch it, I think the more you're like, wow, I like this movie. I'll watch it now.
Wow.
Same thing with Hereditary. Hereditary is still a scary movie.
I really liked Hereditary a lot.
I watched it the first time, and I expected something totally different based off of what I had seen. And then I watched it, and I thought, at the end of it, I was like, what? I was just so troubled by it. And then now when I talk to people, I'm like, it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen in my life. And I said it's still in a modern movies, even just like not even considering the fact that it's a modern movie or using that as a metric, I would say
Sure.
it is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen because it's real.
Yeah.
Like you can do that, you know.
Yeah,
And all that
there's a
shit can
lot-
happen.
oh my God.
So
Yeah.
you know, and then I don't like to talk about what's in it because I went into it blind. I thought it was going to be something else, and then I watched it and I was like, that's why I was like at the end I was like, holy shit. You know, this
Yeah,
was
dude,
kind of
holy
like
crap.
right when I
Yeah.
was getting into the whole exorcism thing. So,
Mhm.
I was like, this is some real stuff that we're dealing with. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show these pictures.
Okay.
And I'm gonna read from the article that was translated
Okay.
by Google. And you just go ahead and tell me when to stop, Jerry.
I love the respect that they give these people. Like, you look at these people, right? And you're like, oh my God, every single one of them just about is dead. And Google said, holy shit, this is a weird major tragedy. A regional tragedy, I guess. And I'm going to show it the respect that it deserves. Excuse me, drunk AI? Can you please check this out?
I'm curious to see, as somebody who studies languages, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I can see where a lot of these issues, like, I can see and I'm just hoping that the people listening as I read this aren't the same way. Like, I'm hoping that people hear this and think, what the fuck is going on? You know?
Give no
because
charity.
I'm telling you, I can appreciate where Google Translate fucked up.
Okay.
And why it fucked up, because I make these mistakes when I'm translating stuff. So,
Oh,
and I'm
okay.
not a robot, you know. So, like,
Right.
I get it. So, here we go. The headline: the surviving tourist from the group is lying like a cow. Death of Boreat tourists: hypothermia or mysticism? You can remember the route on the map. That was the
Ooh.
headline. Here's the
Wow, that's a hell of a headline.
It's a lot, but I'm
That's a
sure it was
lot.
like probably like 3 Russian words. And here's the subheader: a story that is impossible not to tell readers of Friday. And Friday is in quotes. Okay.
What?
Let me read
What?
that again. Now I want
Okay.
you to remember that Friday is in quotes. A
Right.
story that is impossible not to tell readers of Friday.
So, okay, I think I got this, Tom. Now, Russians, obviously, they get our information some years later. You know what I mean? Like, we may have a movie come out, they don't see it for a while. We have maybe a book come out, they don't see it for a while, right?
Yeah.
This sometimes happens. I think what the story is trying to say is that for readers of the script for the movie Friday in Russia,
You know what? That did come out around that time. So it might be.
dude, this is what I'm saying. Dude, you ain't got no job. Read this transcript.
How you gonna die on a mountain on your day off, Craig?
Yeah, exactly, Craig.
Oh, Craig. All right, let me continue
steal
on.
your bike.
Let me continue. Oh, tuck your tent. Here comes Debo. This happened in August 1993. A group
Okay.
of 7 tourists came to Irkutsk from Kazakhstan. So it's not even a regional thing. It's actually an international tragedy. And
Holy
went to the
shit.
Khamar Daban mountains. Only one girl was destined to return from there alive.
Tom,
6
real
people.
quick. Did you say Khamar Daban? What is it called?
Khamar Daban.
Khamar Daban?
Close enough. Yeah, it translates to Nut Pass.
Well,
So
who is... okay, see.
do with
now
that
here's the
what
thing.
you will.
Tom, you're telling me that something called Nut Pass
Mhm.
is then translated into come on some girl from Europe.
It's
Or
the
whatever
other
you
way
just said.
around. It's Khamar Daban,
Oh, So
and then
come...
it's translated to Nut Pass.
So your thing is it goes from
It's
come
not
on
my
a
thing,
European...
it's-
Well, I mean, it's your piece of paper. I don't know. So it's a... so it goes from come on a girl from Europe
Mhm.
to Nut Pass.
Yes. So there is some
Okay.
kind of
I
like
just-
correlation
listen.
there.
I just had to... You know what? I'm clarifying for our audience. You know what I
And
mean?
I appreciate that you do, because some people might go over some people's heads actually.
Yeah.
Now, let's see here. 6 people including a female instructor, which I think that was the problem, died at an altitude of 2,204 meters. How everything happened today in Friday, in quotes.
See, what is that? How everything happened today in Friday?
Maybe it was Friday when they wrote it. Is that a possibility?
I mean, I would sooner believe that they're making correlations to these people's deaths to some of the violence in the movie Friday.
It could be. Maybe they're referring to the plight of individuals in South Central LA.
Right, and comparing it to these kids with abs.
Could be. Yeah. Well, people at home can't see this yet. That right there.
Oh, I know. I just can't help it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she does. She's got a six-pack.
I realize it didn't make any sense to everyone else. How does a person with six-packs like that die? I mean, really?
I'll tell you. Well, I'm sure this article goes into it.
Only if Tom, today's Wednesday. We're not going to know till Friday.
Well, that's why I have to specify it happened in quote-unquote Friday. Right. We learned about this case in the emergency service of the Irkutsk region, period. Okay. While preparing, and I thought there was going to be more to it. I haven't read through this article as well as I thought. While preparing an article about the dangers that may lie in wait for mushroom pickers and berry pickers in the summer in the forest, the chief specialist of the service, Leonid Ismailov, casually mentioned this story. In August 1993, Leonid Davidovich and his colleagues, I don't know, from the Trans-Baikal...
Leonard Davidovich,
some of this stuff isn't...
T-Bone.
Debo and his colleagues. These aren't important because they're not as funny as, like, the translation themselves. These are real names and places. Had to look for dead tourists on Khamar Daban. The story turned out to be so shocking that we asked a professional to tell the readers of Friday. This one is not in quotations, so I don't know. In all the details. And you know what? Friday isn't even the name of the publication that I pulled this from, so it can't even be that.
Wow.
In August 1993, a group of tourists from the Republic of Kazakhstan arrived in Irkutsk by train, says Debo. Then the deputy head of ZRPSS...
And this is my wife.
This is my wife. Very nice. Out of the mountain. Very nice. There were 7 of them. 3 girls, 3 young men, and their 41-year-old leader, Lyamalia Ivanovna. Master
Their 41-year-old leader, creepy as shit.
Well, you know what's funny about that is it says 3 girls, 3 young men, and their 41-year-old leader, as if that's like its own gender, right?
Yeah, right. So wait, the leader was a man?
No, it's a woman. It's actually a woman.
So look at the picture. How is there 3 There's 3 girls and 3 young men. Where's the...
You know what? This is back in 1993, and I don't know if you remember this about the early 90s, but like the gender lines were very blurred.
Early 90s Kazakhstan? No, I wasn't very familiar. I don't have a good...
Let me tell you, based on what I know from quote-unquote Friday, I will tell you that the gender lines in Kazakhstan were very blurred in 1993. But no, it says
everybody had
here,
mustaches.
Yeah, and then bowl cuts. That blew in the wind a little bit like this. These are people... So Kazakhstan was always like 20 years behind America. So like when you look at these people, these are 70s haircuts, right? You look at these people and you know that these are people from the 70s. But lo and behold. And then like the camera is taking black and white pictures. So like the 20s, right? You know, so
by
you've
the way,
got 20s color pictures. You've got 80s styles hair or 70s and 80s styles haircuts in a 1993 picture event that happened, right?
Tom, can I blow this whole thing wide open?
Yeah, please.
All right, think about this. Now we said the Friday article said 3 women or 3 girls, right?
Right.
And 3 boys. No.
Well, young men. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, young men. And we have, of course, their leader. Now, not only are there 7 people in this picture, so that could account for all of them.
They're all there, yeah.
But who's taking the picture?
That's the real mystery.
This is what I'm saying.
It's no
if you
longer
just say
about
there were
who
seven.
killed who. Yeah.
If
no
you
longer
just
the
say there
past.
were 7 people, then the 8th one could murder all of them.
You know what the bigger mystery is to me, Jerry, and I've now realized it. As
Besides
we're talking
Friday?
about this picture. Yeah, like
Oh, okay.
what is Friday? What are we talking about?
Right.
Is why the kid on the left didn't put down his backpack before the picture. Everybody else put their backpack down except for this kid, and
Oh
you
my
can
God.
tell. I would say that it's probably because he's the youngster, and he just like doesn't have. Unless you tell him what to do, he's
Right, he
just
doesn't
gonna
have the
do
social
what he's
skills
doing.
yet.
But
Dude, how about this? He was
you know
the
he
one ready.
regrets that picture, right? Like he
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, man, I wish I would have taken off that backpack if I wasn't dead. I
Dude, how
died
about this?
Tragically.
How about he was the only one who saw what was coming, right? And he's like trying to tell them, and they're like, "Just finish the picture. Just I don't know how they
Take
talk.
the picture.
Take us a picture, right?" And he's like, "But we gotta go. We have to go." And they're like, "Okay,
We gotta go.
You know, all right, Yuri, whatever your name is." And
I don't know his name. I have names written down here, but I don't know who's who among
Yeah,
the
right.
masters.
Well, we'll just. I mean, we could go with
I would say
I mean,
it's probably
really.
Timur.
Timur,
Yeah. It's either
Timur or less.
Oh, it's gotta be Timur or less. Yeah. It's gotta be him. We'll talk about
Could you
that
imagine if
later.
that was his last name? Even close. Just
No,
even close to it.
it's. I wish it was, but it's Bapanov, which is
Oh, for crying out
ridiculous.
loud.
Timur Banapanov, which
Boy, oh
sounds
boy.
silly when you say it out loud. All right,
Yeah,
let
it
me
does.
let me continue reading.
It sounds like It sounds like a more perverse person watching Euphoria. No.
Timur Miller. Oh, what? What?
What? Oh my goodness! Come on.
Let's see. Let me get the next picture for you guys. I got to make sure you guys get a good image. You know, and like all these pictures are black and white. I couldn't find a single colored picture of them
Oh, my
out there.
goodness.
Like, and
Wow.
I know I was there. I was alive in 1993. I know that we had colored pictures. But
Yeah.
whatever. Apparently not in Ukraine.
I know
or
because
not
of how
Russia.
long it took for us to download them on the internet.
Well, first
You
of
know?
all, Jerry, you had to take them to 1 hour photo and pay like an exorbitant amount of money for these printouts or whatever.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue reading. The 40 males, females, and 41-year-old leaders. if I had a pronoun from now on, it's gonna be my gender is 41-year-old leader.
41-year-old leader. That's it.
I can't wait to put that as somewhere in the description.
41-year-old leader Tom.
Yeah, and then you're gonna be the 3 girls. Okay, the tourists moved from the village of Merino along. You know what? I'm done with it. It's silly. It's silly. Some of these things I read them and I was like, man, this is solid gold. You know, I can't wait to talk about. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that you are to bed before you turn into a pumpkin. I'm gonna read the concise version since people are still like, what the fuck even happened? Like, we haven't even
just
gotten
like
to
listening
that,
to
right?
us. What the fuck are they talking about?
I'm having a good time, and that's really all that matters. I like this. I like the specialist notes that Valentia Utenchenko was very lucky because people are extremely rare in these places. The girl told what happened to their group, and the first opportunity the tourists contacted the rescuers. The information came to us from Alexander Kravinsky. Again, not important. But we failed to find a parking lot, although helicopters flew and such from... I don't know what these Russians are talking about. All right, so these events that I'm about to read are according to Valentina Udachenko, who is
And
a
Ice
known,
Cube.
and Ice Cube, who is a known fibber and didn't describe the events until some time later, some 20 years later, actually. She didn't talk about what happened until
Is
like
that true?
20 years later. She gave the police kind of a description of what happened, but she didn't start talking about what happened until 2013, I guess. Like 20 years
Really?
later, yeah.
Well, what's her problem?
Well, she watched all her friends die, as you're about to find out. And she did nothing. She did nothing to stop them from dying. Shame on her. Okay. So these guys, and I've listened. I'm like chewing this girl out. I don't even know her problem. She literally.
I'm sorry.
watched all
I'm
her
just
first
sitting here
time.
hearing it in my head. I don't care what day of the week it is. You tell us what the fuck happened up there.
It was Friday.
It was
Doggone
Friday.
it.
Good. It was Good
like,
Friday.
I like Mike in Manitoba said, in Mother Russia, everything happens on Friday, comrades. And then Steph, of course, said, that's how my husband introduces me to people. This is my wife. Leader is our word. You have to say Lita. We have to, I'm sorry, I said leader with a hard R, and I didn't mean to.
Oh my goodness. Holy
okay.
crap.
Now
we're gonna lose the show.
I know, and we're gonna get edited, and we're gonna get canceled or whatever. Like Whoopi Goldberg.
We just lost our HBO Max sponsorship.
That's a shame because of all the hurtful things
we
I said
just
about,
got it.
Yeah, of all the hurtful things I said about Litas. Okay. Now I'll give you the down and dirty version. These guys,
Please.
They went out, 7 of them, 3 boys, 3 girls, 1 Lita.
Mm-hmm.
They went out and they hit the trails, and they were supposed to do this mountain. And the 41-year-old leader, she was like super good at these trails, and people would fly from all over the world apparently to like be under her tutelage and learn how to climb mountains.
Oh my God, dear leader, can you tell me how to walk on a mountain?
Right? Like what?
Like
no,
I
your
know,
parents were
I
supposed
know
to
there's
do
more
that,
than
right?
that. I get that. I know there's more than that. But it's like if you're a teenage person and you have to go, oh my God, did you see that dear leader? She can walk in the straight line. She could walk backwards.
She can go upstairs.
She can go downstairs without tripping and hurting her
Can
lady
you
balls.
imagine like somebody showing up and being like, "Hey, can you show me how to climb on a mountain?" She's like, "Well, have you ever climbed on like a hill or anything?" Yeah, it's pretty much like that, but like
That's
more.
just it, you know.
You just do more of it. Like,
You
have
know,
you
I
ever
go-
like walked on a hill for a long time? Yeah. Oh, well, then you're pretty much good, I guess.
I have to admit, although I like the attentions, they make a lot more out of what I do than what it is.
She's spent
You know?
the last 30 years just like kind of coasting on the fact that she's really good at walking.
Yeah. She's like, look, I'm not going to turn down the money. What am I going to say? Not another interview for the excellent walker?
Yeah,
whatever.
she's like the extreme sports of walking or whatever.
What was that,
you can
speed
climb on
walking,
rocks and
remember?
shit. Yeah, they wear a helmet and they wear like that's super aerodynamic, and they wear like the tights. Yeah, I know those guys. You can't have 2 feet or like more than 1 foot off the ground at a time. There's
That's
some
right.
like serious rules about walking, professional speed walking. Anyways, this bitch, she
And it all stemmed from this woman's book.
yeah, she's the one who invented like professional walking, and like and nobody questioned it. People were like, I feel like I've been walking for a long time, like way before 1993. And she's like,
Dude.
no, you have not walked like I've walked. Let me tell you.
It's like all those infomercials. Do you think you've had eggs before? You haven't had eggs until
you haven't
get
seen
eggs.
shit.
Yeah, you ain't seen shit until you eat eggs out of this beater, motherfucker. You think you have waffles? I can show you waffles. You know.
And you get beat up by end up getting beat up by the slap chop guy or whatever. The
exactly.
ShamWow. That's right. I call him the
He
slap
was like a
chop guy.
crackhead, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't
well, no, he beat a hooker up. Or like he
Oh,
bit
is that
a
what it
hooker,
was?
Remember? Yeah, he like beat
Yeah,
up a
but
hooker.
we need to
and...
listen. Before I judge him, I need to know the whole story. If he got robbed,
You need to walk a mile
you need to find.
in the slap
Look.
chop guy's shoes.
That's right. Look, if you and I were, let's say, a victim of a robbery, and the person happened to be a lady of the night, I'll bite a bitch to get my $500 back.
Oh, for sure.
I literally fought 6 guys who had a broom and were beating me with it. And this is true. My friend and I were walking one night, and these group of youths requested information about
were they Litas?
these. Yes, these group of youths had requested information on where the trees were at, and we didn't have that information. So then they decided to try to rob us and take our money, and I said, "Fuck you, that's my money." And I was in a wrestling match with my wallet, with this guy, and my wallet in our hands, and his cohorts were beating me because it was trash night, beating me with a broom that was on the side of the road, and then punching me in the solar plexus and things like that. Eventually, my wallet was very cheap. It ripped. The money flew up in the air. They took it and ran. Tom, would you like to know how much money I fought 6 guys over?
Was it a couple bucks?
$28.
Oh, well, that's a lot of money, honestly. I mean, what
Listen,
year was this? Was this 1993?
It was actually around 1993. Yeah.
Hold on, Jerry.
Yeah.
Let me get this right.
Okay.
While 3 boys, 3 girls, and one leader, one 41-year-old leader, let's respect the pronoun, were dying on a mountain somewhere in Siberia. You were fighting almost to the death a bunch of young leaders for $28. And
yes, my $28. Yeah.
Do you often think about that as like something that, like a trial of your youth, like something that you remember being difficult to some degree?
Yes, but now, Tom, it's even deeper than that, because now I think of it as, because of course we talk about the paranormal, we talk about all kinds of strange things that go bump in the night on this show, and now I'm wondering if my eternal struggle, my struggle in that situation, sent out a butterfly effect of electric waves, vibrations to the Ukraine just outside of Kazakhstan, right? And then as soon as my wallet ripped, all these people perished. Because the struggle, Tom, the struggle ended. Do you understand what I'm saying? The wallet ripped in half. The death of my wallet led to the death of these kids, I think.
7 people. 6 people.
6 people and a fucking lying bitch.
She's still alive. You're saying hurtful things about Valentina Chivankovich or whatever. Udachenko was her name.
Well, if she takes as long as she did to tell anybody about this story, I won't ever hear about it.
She might be dead by the time.
Yes, exactly.
By the time she decides to say anything.
It's her eulogy, you know. It's like the
She's
whole
not
rest
much
of the world
older than we are, Jerry. Honestly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. She was 17 in 1993. So what is she now?
Well, let's see. If I was 18 in 98 and she was 17, so 5 years young. Wait. So I was 13. All right. So now she's 4 years. Okay, so she's 45?
Yeah, she's like your age, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, look, as an Eastern European, she's a lot older. The age doesn't matter.
You know what I mean? Say, Mike in Manitoba in the chat just said $28.93 was color film money. So,
and Don's right too. By the way, this is what I'm saying. Don said it himself. A rip in time, and their time was up. See,
there's some kind of connection there. I think.
I mean,
your Velcro wallet being torn.
Oh no, it wasn't Velcro. It was cheap leather. Thank you.
Wait. You're saying I called it Velcro, and you said cheap. No, it was, you corrected me. You said,
No, Velcro is a quality product. Are you serious?
What's one level down from Velcro? Is that like paper? Was it a paper wallet?
It's the $9 wallet that says it was called "You Wish This Was Leather." You know what I mean? It was instead of you saw this on TV, it was "You Wish This Was Leather."
I'm imagining like a construction. You got like construction paper folded with money inside.
It was actually
like, is this your wallet? And they'd like take it, and nobody would confuse a piece of construction paper folded for a wallet.
It was
like,
just
get
origami.
This construction paper out of here, you know. They toss it.
It was
you don't
just
have any
origami.
money? No, and you go over and you pick up your wallet. I was gonna say this before we got off on that tangent. The guy from what's that movie called that he was in? The underground comedy movie is he was in that movie, the guy from the Slap Chop and ShamWow commercial.
Oh yeah.
He was. Yeah, I said, don't judge him until you've slapped a mile in his chop. I thought that was really funny. All right.
So inappropriate comedy.
It's such an absurd comment. Don't slap.
No, I got it for you. Inappropriate comedy, I believe is what it was called.
No, it was not. It was called the Underground Comedy Movie.
Oh, that's what. No, dude, check this out. Vince Offer,
Oh, that's
best
his name.
known
That's
as
right.
the Sham, right? Best known as the ShamWow guy and biting the tongue of a prostitute in Florida, has written and directed a movie called Inappropriate
That
Comedy.
sounds awful.
Somehow he was able to get a cast comprised of Adrian Brody, Michelle Rodriguez, Lindsay Lohan, and Rob Schneider. And today, yeah. And today we have the first photo from the movie. Check it out below. Plot: Brody stars as Filthy Harry, a tough cop with a soft middle and a flair for fashion. Schneider is in a dual role as both sleazy, horny psychologist and a curmudgeonly porn critic, along with his enthusiastic counterpart Rodriguez. Lohan living out her fantasy of taking ultimate revenge on the paparazzi who haunt her, and Ari Shaffir, the amazing racist, whose offensive hidden camera encounters with members of different ethnic minority groups push everyone's buttons. So there you go. That was from, I believe, 2012, 2013. So
wow, so that exists. We need to watch
that exists.
Then.
That's a thing. Yeah, we're gonna have a "You Had Me at Bigfoot" movie night.
Appropriate. I actually own Underground Comedy Movie.
Oh, dude, we could do a double feature.
Yeah, we might as well. All right, let's finally talk about.
Let's find out what
I gotta
happened.
Get you to bed.
Yeah, we gotta go. Yeah, right. You have to
so
go play Pokemon. Don't put it all on me.
Well, no, I'm probably gonna go to bed. Honestly, I've been taking a lot of dicks lately, and I need to go to sleep. So they took off. They had it set up to where the leader's daughter was leading another expedition, and they had it set up very well done. I mean, this is time before cell phones, right?
Right.
Or readily available cell phones. And so they had it set up to where at certain points they would link up with one another, and her daughter went another way and she went this other way. I don't know. Anyways, they were supposed to meet up at some point in this intersection multiple times throughout the trip. And before even the first intersection, they dropped the ball, right?
Okay.
They made great time up the mountain, and as they were heading down, apparently what was supposed to be clear weather ended up being really nasty rainfall. And while they're coming down the mountain, and again, we're talking 20 to 80 degrees weather. So I mean, a little rain if it's, and this is August, so it's probably closer to 80 than it is 20. And these folks, they can't go any further. They do up a hasty situation where they throw the tents up, and they camp out. They can't get the fire going, but then they go to sleep that night. The next morning, they do get a fire going. They eat breakfast, and then they take off down the mountain. Now, right away, tragedy strikes. Okay, and this is where I want to make sure that I'm going to give you the exact order of events so that you can make an informed decision, Jerry. The first member of the group to fucking eat it is Sasha. It's actually a guy, Alexander Sasha Kristen. Sasha is a common nickname for people named Alexandra in Russia.
Okay.
Which I didn't understand when I was reading some of this other shit. I kept thinking it was a girl. He started screaming. He was bleeding from his eyes and ears, frothing at the mouth. He fell to the ground, convulsing, and went still. Lyudmila went to help him, but he wasn't responsive. The group went on without them. Now, hold up. Hear me out, okay? The group just carried on without him and Lyudmila, or whatever, the leader.
Right.
Now, they heard screaming as they were beating feet down the mountain. They turn around. Turns out Lyudmila is she's screaming now, right? So they fucking hustle back, and they see her doing the same thing, right? She's let's see here, all the same symptoms. So she was bleeding from the eyes and ears, frothing at the mouth. She fell to the ground. She fell, landed on top of Sasha, covering him, right? And then she died. Like Don Trout said, now he's stealing my thunder, because that was going to be one of my theories. it sounds like COVID, right? It's probably what they had. Next, if that wasn't enough, that these two
wait, Tom.
assholes died.
Do we know if any of these people had been fuck, I haven't looked at that. Okay. Do we know that any of these people had been researching how to cure AIDS in brothels or other bathhouses and may have, contracted something from a bat, maybe, or a...
Well, Jerry, the short answer to that is I don't know. I don't think so. But I will say that they were vaccinated against any kind of like SARS, severe acute respiratory syndromes.
Okay. All right.
They were vaccinated by Moderna and Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Johnson and Janssen.
Wow. Sheesh.
Now, yeah, they were totally covered.
To the nines, yeah.
Boosted, in fact. Now, Tatiana, she ran over to Lyudmila. I don't speak Russian, so I don't know. I don't recognize how to pronounce these names. I'm sure these like names seem like John, James, Joseph, like normal names to the Russians. I don't know them. Tatiana got to her first, and then she suddenly started choking, clutching at her throat like she couldn't breathe. Then she fell to the ground. This is where it gets weird, as if it wasn't already weird. She fell to the ground, crawled to a rock, and bashed her head against it until she went limp and died.
Holy shit.
It's pretty weird, right? It reminds me of
Can I just say right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
It wouldn't have taken 3 people for this shit to happen to for me to not run towards them. You know what I'm saying? Like after a while.
Right, yeah. After the first one, you're like,
there's the first guy and you're like, what? Did I eat the same thing as him as breakfast? And then... Did he get bit by some kind of bug that's over there? Or is there an invisible predator? That kind of thing?
Could be.
And
typically
then
you
there's...
can see the shifting in like you can kind of see like a blur.
Yeah, you can see the outline. Yeah. And then there's the leadus, and same thing happens to he or she. He or she.
It's a she. Let's recognize that.
Can you please?
You have to refer to 41-year-old leader as 41-year-old leader.
As 41-year-old leader, that's true.
That's their pronouns. As 41-year-old leaders.
41-year-old.
41-year-old leader.
It's funny because I was gonna try to make a joke about like how the whole Russian female like Olympic team is all like dudes, given all the hormones they take and stuff, And then it's like, well, no, it doesn't matter anyway. They're just a 41-year-old leader. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is if I just watch people. Do you remember that shitty Shyamalan movie, The Happening? Where like people just
yeah. I wish I didn't, but I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had great laughs watching it in the movie. I was like, "Holy shit, this is hilarious!"
I frowned the whole time.
Dude, for a while, I was like when the first people fell in New York, where they jumped off the building and splatted right next to off camera, next to it. Oh, holy shit! Did I laugh so hard? I was like, "Oh, this is what we're in for." I thought I was watching a movie. This is all right. Yeah, this is okay. And then Mark Wahlberg, come on, guys, the science. I'm your science teacher.
To whom?
Yeah, And so, yeah, I guess I just want to reiterate, if I'm watching The Happening in real time, and everybody's just near trees getting choked out and bleeding, I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I guess I'm going to slide down this mountain. I'll see. I'm going to go get out of here. I'm going to go get help, guys.
Yeah, that's always amazed me about people who die when they're on their descent from a mountain. Like, why don't you just ride down? Like, why don't you just skidoo? Like, just dude, slide down on your butt because you're going down. Yeah. It's not like you're climbing. Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, are you worried about stopping? Is that the problem? Like,
you'll stop eventually. Like,
That's true.
It's not like mountains typically just come to a point, right? They slide out. You're good.
You do get a little warning. Yeah.
Don't even trip.
That's right.
You've got like thousands of meters or whatever these people use. All right, so that reminds me of that story though of like that kid who was telling a story about he and his grandpa went hunting and they saw a deer go up like on 2 legs and then he went over to a rock and banged his head against the rock until his shit was all droopy or whatever, and then it like walked off into the thing and died. That's what it reminded me of when I was reading this. Anyways, so she eats it, after banging her head against a rock of all things. And then Victoria and Timur, the kid who had the backpack on in the picture like an asshole, they took off running, but as they were running away, they just collapsed and died the same way. They were clutching their throats and frothing and bleeding and out of all their face holes. And then, but they were also like ripping their clothes off, right? In the middle of the in the middle of the winter. Well, I'm sorry, it's not winter; it's August. But in the middle of like what presumably we later would find out was they were found to have died of hypothermia, right? So these assholes, they were taking their clothes off in the middle of what would result in hypothermia. Victoria and then Dennis and Valentino were the only ones left. They took off together, but then Dennis did the same thing. He started bleeding from his eyes and mouth and nose and ears, and then he started convulsing and he fell over and died. And Valentina, she was the one who ran away and survived. Here's another weird thing. She like went to cover, like tree cover, which was within the distance of their original campsite, and she set up camp and she went to bed. She like slept or whatever. So they could have the night before gone and found cover, but they were like exposed to the elements and shit. But this girl, she goes and she finds cover in the woods or in the trees, and she sleeps the night off. And then the next morning she realizes, hey, if I'm gonna continue my trek down this hill, instead of just like sledding down it like a normal person should, I need to go back and I need to get supplies. So she goes back to the dead bodies, collects all the supplies, and then she heads down the hill for 3 days now. Wow. After all her friends die, she's following electrical lines. She's following a river, like water pipes. She's following, and then she finally gets to a river. She follows the river for a while. She's discovered by some kayakers who are, just on the river or whatever. They see her on the side of the river, and she's covered in dried blood, just like staring blankly at them. She doesn't make any like indication like, hey, I need help. She's just standing there staring at them. And these guys kind of like coast by, like as anyone would if you're kayaking and you see a woman covered in dried blood just by herself, zoned out, staring. They just kind of keep going. And
yeah, I think they did what all of us would do, and they would say, oh my good lord, is that what happens when a girl comes to...
These are Russians now.
Oh my goodness, I can't do a Russian accent. All right, I'm just gonna go with it.
What you're doing.
Yeah. Hey, Dimitri. Yes, Dimitri. Can you believe that girl got... Fuck, I'm gonna go to hell for this. Can you believe that girl just got her period? Is that what that looks like?
Dimitri. That's a scene. They think that the period, like women just explode in blood and they're covered in it and they just stew in it for days.
That's why she's in the woods.
Makes sense. I mean, that's where I would go. Now they kind of just coast by her or whatever, just which is what I would do if I saw somebody. Frankly, if I saw somebody covered in blood just staring blankly off ahead, I'd probably keep going too. I wouldn't even say hi to them. Like I've seen some weird things in my life that I've just ignored. I just kept going. I don't have time. As if my life is like so. I have so much going on that I have that ability to just be like.
I have the luxury to ignore this.
I'm not dealing with this. Like I'm not that exciting of a person that I can just pass on opportunities. But sometimes I do. I have in my life. And this is one of those times that I think I would have passed. I would have just continued to... I maybe would have even picked it up a little bit. I would have been like, okay, let's go. But they, these guys, very charitable guys, way more charitable than I would be probably. They come back. They pull over and they say, hey, man, are you okay? So they get this girl. They get her. They bring her back to town. And she tells her story. This is what I just relayed.
What you just relayed.
Yeah. Right. Now... she didn't even tell the story for like several days because she was so traumatized. Imagine that, you watch something like that happen and she's so traumatized she can't even tell the story.
Yeah, no shit.
But so they go out looking for these bodies. She's like, hey man, there's these, I guess she like told enough to where they were like, well, let's go look for these fucking bodies wherever. Who knows where they are? And they didn't have anything to go off of, but they do find them eventually. Like 20 days later, honestly, it's like 20 some days, 23 days later, as a matter of fact, if my math is correct, because I think they found them on the August 28th and they died on the 5th. But they go and they find him, and here's actually this one's better translated than the article I was going to read. This is somebody from the recovery team. They said it was a scary picture. The hikers were laying on a small ledge, some huddled together, some a little distance away. They had no eyes. In the empty sockets and parted mouths, worms were crawling. We packed the bodies in plastic bags. When they flew to Ulan-Ude, the smell in the helicopter was impossible. Some of the men were sick. Then the autopsies determined that they died of hypothermia, except for Lyudmila, who died of a heart attack, supposedly. Now, they all had bruised lungs and protein deficiency due to malnutrition, despite having food in their packs, right? They had enough food in their packs. And even after Homegirl came and, like, picked them clean, they got plenty of food.
Here's I got to say, just real quick, I don't believe this. I think there must be something wrong with this translation.
Okay.
Well, it's not adding up. No, there's not been one mention yet of Friday at all. I don't believe.
Well, it's weird. Because I thought the same thing.
If you're supposed to give dates and times on this stuff, you fucking I'm a virtuous, heroic reporter, and I can't even bother to tell you what day it was.
I'm thinking back in 1993, probably Fridays were less talked about than they are now, because like you said,
Fridays were more commonplace back then.
They were less commonplace, as it were.
Oh,
except for maybe I do remember a rapper talking about it, saying if I were if I had my way, every day would be a Friday, and you could even speed on the highway. So I know that they were aware of Fridays. I just don't know. That
maybe not in Russia.
Maybe, yeah. Well, Russia, like I said, they were always 20 years behind us. So here are the theories. Are you ready for these?
Yeah, let's bring it, please. I'd love to know.
Okay. The hikers saw something that they shouldn't have, and the government had to dispatch them. Okay. They had deviated from the route, so it's possible that they uncovered a secret military experiment. The argument against that is that it's probably not likely because it's such a public place, that mountain. You can just go there. Tourists can go there. And it's easily seen from higher points on the mountain. There are also plenty of locations in Siberia that they could do experiments that are more secretive. My pushback to that, so somebody presents this harebrained theory, and then then the nerds come out and they say no, that can't be, and then I come back and I say this. Now my theory in response to the pushback was that maybe this is a naturally occurring situation, right? I'm not saying necessarily that they went out there and they were testing some kind of like super secret, I don't know, like say it's a UFO, for instance, or like an alien died and there was some kind of like toxic thing and they didn't want to mess with it quite yet, or there was perhaps like a break into the hollow earth and there was this gas leaking out of it, and that was the only place that it could be explored or studied, or perhaps maybe an opening, and these people saw it and then the government had to dispatch them. That's why it's there, and we know that they deviated from the normal route. Maybe that's why when they say, well, no, they could have done it anywhere else in Siberia, I'm like, well, what if it happened there? You can't move an opening into the hollow earth. You can't move landing crash site of a UFO. You can't move certain things. So maybe that is where they were studying it, and these guys happened upon it. And
look, what if they just dropped it? You know what I mean? Like,
they could do that.
You were walking, you didn't mean to drop it, and then
they just had to study it where it was.
Well, they dropped it, and now maybe it's broken. Now maybe, who knows? Leaky gas. Maybe they thought it was a UFO, turned out to be a bird. Now they're into the bird, but it turns out that the bird is the UFO. There are all kinds of situations where
to be the case oftentimes.
There are all kinds of options available, is what I'm trying to say, just for accidents. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I'm imagining
Sheer accidents.
when you're talking about, just that's where it happened or whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a scientist, like a really like slippery, like a scientist that just ate a bunch of popcorn,
Slippery.
right?
Yeah.
And he's got, his hands are, they're slippery, and he's
Covered in
carrying
butter.
all this evidence, right? He's like running
Exactly.
down the mountain, and he drops something, and then he's like, well, I can't I can't replicate
Yeah.
this in a lab. I have to study it where it is. So
That's right.
he
See,
studies
people
it
don't
where
think
it's
about
at.
this.
So
It's always
there's that saying, when somebody hurts themselves and they break a bone, what's the easiest, or where do you splint it? You splint it where they lie. The same thing goes for scientists on mountains after they eat popcorn. Study it where it lies, right?
Dude, exact. Look, there are limitations, and I have to say this too. If like people, fuck, I just lost it. I'm so stupid. It was so stupid. I had it. It was so stupid. And it was so good to be so stupid, and I lost it.
It can't be any worse than like the truth.
Yeah. Oh, what I was going to say, every person knows from years of watching cartoons or movies or what have you, it's always the scientist who's late to the meeting who figured out the problem. And they're running, and their big papers are flying all over the place, and they're darting through traffic, or they're running, in this case, down a mountain, to tell everybody that they just figured out the problem, and that we are in danger. And well, he brought
right.
He was right. That's right.
Damn right.
He was damn right.
Well,
and by the way, his name was also Dimitri.
Well, it always is.
Yeah.
What were his pronouns? Was it 41-year-old leader, 41-year-old
It was
leader?
disheveled scientist, dangerous disheveled scientist Dimitri.
Wouldn't it be funny if, like, I would get behind gender pronouns if they were just funny things like that?
Yeah, you can just choose,
Yeah, you just whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Megabit says they call it playing it through. Play through.
That's
okay.
it. Game on.
The other option is it was a nerve agent, and I think actually Mike said this, the H2S gas. A nerve agent caused the death. Now that was what I thought when I heard the the choking and the blood and because we were trained extensively about nerve agents, right? That was like a thing that we were legitimately concerned about.
Okay.
And so when I was reading this, I was like, wow, that sounds an awful lot like nerve agents. And so this right here, it says that the gases were used by the Soviet government until 1993, coincidentally, and they were tested around that mountain. Okay. Nerve agents cause these symptoms, and they would cause the outcomes seen by the medical examiners, such as the bruising in the lungs.
Right.
Now, how did they, how did Homegirl not notice that there was gas leaking, right? They can settle, right? Gases can settle onto into the water, and then as the water's evaporating in the morning sun, this kid kicked up some like gases that settled in that spot. Especially, if you're like walking through a field and there's some taller grass and the gas is settled and it's become kind of like settled into the dew, and this kid kicks it up, all of a sudden the gas comes up. Homegirl runs over to help him. She breathes it. Other dude breathes it. And then they're starting to like, all this movement is kicking it up. And then girls, this Valentina girl or whatever her name is, I don't have it listed here right now on this front page. She's far enough away. She's not catching a whiff of it. Or maybe like the other dude who like got it at the same time that they were running away. I don't know, but there is certainly like something to this nerve gas thing. It's called Novichok gas, is what the thing was called.
Okay.
Hypothermia. We did talk about the paradoxical undressing when we talked about the Dyatlov Pass, where they're like, they get hypothermia. And then they get confused. They think they're hot, but in reality they're cold. But they start stripping off their clothes and shit. So there were some people who were found with their clothes, some of their clothes taken off. Which is why I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I was pretty proud of your title, paradoxically undressing to pay for college.
Yeah, really I liked it, but I wasn't sure, because I didn't know the story yet. I was like, well, I'm gonna wait this one out before I ask why is
yep,
what is
there
this?
It is. Now you know. And then mine is also Siberian nerve gas crop duster. So those are where the ideas came from. Toxins in the water. Lake Baikal sits above the mountain and is a well-known toxic waste dumping area. If the wastewater ran down and the group used the water with their breakfast, that could have potentially caused the issues. Now, here's one that...
Yeah, and she was the only one not to eat breakfast, right?
Yeah, well, maybe she's like... So here's the thing. When I was in basic training, I don't eat eggs. So I do not like eggs. And so when I was in basic training, a lot of times the only thing that they had were eggs. Especially when we were out in the field, like we would leave at like 2:30, 3 in the morning on a ruck march, and we would head out. And by the time we got there about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, we'd be eating chow. They'd bring food to us, and it would just be eggs. And I'm like, well, I don't eat eggs, so I'd take the food and I'd give it to somebody else or whatever. I'd toss it into the woods. And so maybe that was the situation. Like they used the water to make something that she didn't like. And she's like, I'm not going to eat it. No, thank you. Or like on that movie Cabin Fever, which is one of my favorites. Like the dude, he does the bet where he's like, I bet I can drink beer for the whole weekend and that's it. And then he does. And he's like the one who survives the longest because he didn't drink any of the water. Probably something similar. I think that's a pretty good one.
Could be.
Now the other one was bad mushrooms. Okay. Supposedly, and I had to do a little bit of research for this one, right?
Wow. Okay.
Which is rare, I know, but
no. I mean, as a truth-telling show,
we have to be. We have to do a little bit of research.
I just know how busy things have been going, and that's a lot of work to put in for the show and story, and that's where
I'll tell you, I started research at about 5 p.m. tonight. Like by 6:30, and then I told it was 7:30. I think I told my wife, I texted her, I said, I'm wrapping up here, go ahead and fire up another episode of Dix the TV show, and I said we'll watch it before the show and I'll come down, and that's why I was so late to get down here. But no, I had to do a little bit of research because I saw the term psilocybin mushrooms. And I didn't know that psilocybin mushrooms was just like shrooms. That was just like the actual word, right? So I'm like, psilocybin mushrooms, huh? Okay, so I'm like, I wonder what
sounds deadly.
It's right? And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, I got to learn a little bit more about this. Come to find out, it's sending me to all these like drug abuse pages or whatever. And I'm like, oh, psilocybin is just psychedelic, hallucinogenic mushrooms. And I got to one page, and it was so funny because one of those automatic like, hey, would you like to talk to somebody? Would you like to speak to
counselor or something?
We have people on staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It popped up in the bottom right hand corner. Hey, would you like to talk? And I'm like, please. I was like, I wonder what page I pulled up because it was talking about overdosing on mushrooms. And like as soon as I looked up at the page, it was a drug abuse counseling page, and I was like, I'm like, I have to clarify with this robot that popped up. I'm like, I'm researching a thing. I'm like, I'm not like overdosing on mushrooms right now, which isn't a thing. I found out like you can't really overdose on mushrooms. Like it's kind of like the same way as like you overdose on weed. You just get sick and you puke.
You just have a lot of trouble for a while, and then that's it.
And then you go on about your business. Same thing is true of mushrooms. Like your trip lasts as long as it takes for your body to metabolize the mushrooms. So like when you take your last mushroom, you're pretty much on a 6-hour time or like clock where it's like that's how long it takes your body to metabolize it. So you're looking at 6 hours of tripping, and that's it. So during that time, you may just end up puking a lot, and you may end up shitting, and you may end up having a bad trip. You puke and shit and whatever. Like, do what I did the other day while having a bad trip at the same time, which is probably not a pleasant experience, but that's like the equivalent of overdosing. But they do say that psychosis, convulsions, cardiac arrest, and or a coma are like the extreme cases. However, 0.2% of a study of 12,000 users who ingested mushrooms needed emergency medical treatment. So it's 5 times lower than that of users of ecstasy, LSD, or cocaine. So mushrooms are essentially harmless. I would say, like, you're probably better off to you're based on these studies. Now I'm not saying go do it, but
Right.
I'm saying you're less likely to need to go to the hospital if you take mushrooms than if you take ecstasy, LSD, or cocaine. In fact, 5 times less likely. And then Mike is in the chat like, shrooms. He says 3 hours for him. He's mastered the metabolism. But also, people crying blood is apparently a common hallucination that people see when they're taking mushrooms. Psilocybin mushrooms. Now you've learned something from this episode. I know 3/4 of you come to podcasts for information, so I want to make sure you guys get something. Psilocybin mushrooms are actually the hallucinogenic mushrooms. They think that perhaps the group, because they were foraging for these herbal remedies, that what's her face, the leader, the 41-year-old leader, she was a known forager, and she knew of an herb in the area that had like this medicinal purpose, a very useful medicinal purpose. And they think that they were foraging, and somebody collected up some mushrooms, whipped them up for breakfast, and everybody ended up having them, and they subsequently died because they overdosed on these mushrooms. The reason Homegirl didn't die is because she either A, was a shroom eating junkie who had built up a tolerance to it, or she again just wasn't that interested in breakfast and was like, I'll have a little bit. No, this is not for me. But she ate enough to where she was seeing them crying and puking blood and hallucinating and shit. That could be a thing. Now, where it gets paranormal is some other people believe that those medicinal leaves that they were collecting had, because of the mountain, the native spirits cursed those people and attacked those people, caused them to do those things, like bashing their head against a rock until they died. They think that that's probably a thing. Personally, I think Valentina Udachenko killed them all because now this is kind of like the beginning and the end. Here's my theory. First of all, you should never trust a woman to lead you doing outdoorsy manly shit. Never. Like, I don't care how experienced she says she is, or like where you read about, I read in American Hunter, like this chick is the shit. She's like super good at outdoorsy stuff. Never
Dude,
follow a woman into a manly thing ever.
That really awesome surfer lost her arm. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. And like how many stories have you heard of a guy losing his arm while surfing? Like, name one. Like, is there movies about it?
Dude, let me tell you something,
Jerry,
Tom.
just name one.
Dude, even if there is one, he's not bitching about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's keeping
Didn't
it
make
secret.
it. Nobody checked in on him. There's no.
Yeah, Jerry, you know what he's doing? Is when he surfs, he puts his like stub behind his back, and he says, check this out, I'm gonna lick this next wave with one arm tied behind my back. And people are like, oh, right on, and they think it's like so funny. But then he like takes off, and then nobody knows he doesn't have an arm that got eaten by a shark.
Right.
But the girl, right? She lost her arm. That became her thing. Remember? Who was it? Was it Hillary? It must have been Hillary Clinton, or even Kamala Harris during the primaries in this last election. Remember when they said specifically, like, "Well, I'm a woman." That became like they were like, well, what makes you think you're more qualified to do this, or why should people vote you? Well, I'm a woman, and that became the thing, right? Like, that was all they wanted. So this chick, she's like, hey, I'm gonna head out on these. Well, she wasn't doing this. She was more like, I'm gonna head out on these waves here, because I'm a woman with one arm missing that I lost in a shark attack, and then people are like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Meanwhile, there's people doing way better surf tricks, and she's doing like, she's marginally getting by, but people are like, but she's only got one arm, which I'm not an expert in surfing, But I'm going to tell you guys something. It doesn't require 2 arms to go surf. You know what I mean? Like, if she lost a leg and she was surfing really good, I might be like, I might be a little bit more sympathetic to her situation. But she's missing an arm. I'm sorry. If she was playing baseball with one arm, I might be like, yeah, oh yeah, hell yeah, that's pretty good. You know.
Don't forget, there was Jim Abbott, the one-armed pitcher for the New York Yankees and the Angels, and he threw a no-hitter. And secondly, I want to do a correction since we are an informational podcast after all. There was that guy who went hiking, extreme hiking in the desert or whatever. Maybe it was Utah somewhere, and he fell in the cave, the crack in the earth, and a boulder fell on his arm or something, and he had to.
Oh, you're talking about James Franco.
That's right, James Franco's 127 hours. And let me tell you something, my friend. I don't know that guy personally, but holy shit, in the little bit that I watched of that, like an interview with him at the end of the movie, plus James Franco's portrayal, he was a fucking douche and he deserved it, and I don't even like it. Like, just forget you guys. So I don't even want to. I'm going to claim him as a bitch too, and he went out by himself because no one probably liked him. That's what I'm going to throw out.
And you
there.
know what? Here's the thing about him is he's a biker, right? Like, as I understand it.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
So like, that's not something that if he was like missing one leg again, I might be like, well, that's pretty, because you got to use your feet for biking. I've ridden a bike with one arm like countless times. I've ridden it with no hands. In fact, you know, like if he was riding it with just one leg and somehow managing to keep it going, that's pretty impressive. But like, he's doing it with one arm. Okay, whatever, guy. And Mike makes a good point here. He says her swimming would be more impressive, which like here's the thing. Her struggle begins when she fails, right? You know, like she falls off of the surfboard, which you only need 2 legs to do, which she's got. But when she starts swimming, that's when you're like, okay, now I'm watching. Now I'm impressed.
I get it.
Let's see what happens. But again, she's also like, all you got to do is ride the wave back to shore and then take off again. She probably ends up going in a circle, though, is what Mike said. But also, she's using the waves to her advantage, which is fucking cheating as far as I'm concerned. But then this brings me full circle. So you've got never follow a woman into manly shit. Like, and Megabit confirmed. He said, I learned that from the movie The Descent. Which again, Megabit and I were talking offline this week about the guy who got stuck in Nutter Cave or Nut Butter Cave or whatever. Like, he died in Nut Butter Cave, which is super embarrassing. But again, like those sorts of videos, I have such a hard time with them now because I'm like, I start watching them or I start reading about these dudes who get trapped in caves and shit or get stuck in claustrophobic situations, and I'm like, I can't do this. I feel like I'm there with them. I feel like I'm with this guy in Nut Butter Cave, and that's not where I want to be. But then you also have this girl, right, who survives. And you got to understand, you can never trust a woman in a situation where, like, if she somehow gets the advantage, you know, and she can kill you, you can never trust a woman in that situation because women are scornful, right? Like, for whatever reason, this girl, Valentina Valya Udachenko, she was 17 years old, and who has more hormones flowing through them than a 17-year-old girl? I don't know. I can't think of any woman really. But no, like a 17-year-old girl, she's very confused. She's kind of in a weird situation. She's up in the mountains. She's just taking a bunch of shrooms. I am willing to bet that this girl killed everybody, right? And and that's why, because how else is she covered in blood? Because even in her own story, she didn't.
If she ran from everybody and didn't get close, then how would she have blood on her?
Wait. Okay.
Did she run away with that one guy?
But then she never talked about how she like tried to save the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But then
she could have watched him drop next to her and then was like, "Well, that sucks. I'm leaving." You know.
Truth be told, I would have just kept moving because you've watched 5 of your people die.
You watched like 5 other people die, and here's the other guy doing it. You're like, "Well, there's something. I gotta go."
And I'll tell you what, Jerry. As soon as that happens, as soon as that guy drops, and I'm running, you know, I'm thinking like any kind of tick that I have. I'm thinking that's the end, right? You know, I start to feel a little twinge in my chest. I'm like, oh, this is it. I think I'm gonna start puking or whatever, or I think I'm gonna start having blood. I'm checking my eyes and shit to make sure I'm not bleeding, because I'm thinking every weird feeling. And even that night while I'm camped out, I'm thinking every time I feel something, I'm like, is that blood? Is that blood in my ears? Is that nope, okay, I'm good. Every single thing is going to trigger me into thinking like, hey, I'm dead. And I'll tell you what, I would rather eat pine cones for the next 3 days than go back to the site of where all my friends died of some unknown condition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which
I'm going to go back, look at their decomposing bodies, and then steal their granola.
Yeah. And not even all of it, right? Like she so this is where her story kind of falls apart for me, right? If I see all my friends dying of something that appears to be, now I'm not Dr. Fauci, I don't know how these things work.
You're limited.
But, right. So I don't know if what I'm breathing in is going to cause me to puke and shit blood.
Dude, why would you go anywhere near them again?
I wouldn't,
just like,
right?
Yeah.
I think she killed them. There's no other.
That makes a lot more sense.
That this doesn't make sense. And why does she wait 20 years to talk about it? She gives this like silly story, and then she waits 20 years to like. I would have written a book. I would have been like, this is how it all went down, man. OJ waited.
I was gonna say
4 years?
You're talking about OJ right now. Yeah. Well, he needed the money. If she had all her gear stolen on eBay and sold on eBay or whatever.
She sold her shit. Udachenko's backpack. Udachenko's Cliff Bar.
Yeah, that was the beginnings of eBay, or maybe it was on Craigslist. Russian Craigslist.
Well, no, that would have been. That didn't come out until 2017. Because it came out for us in 1997. So
that's right. My goodness. Wow. So they just got so maybe they just found their own postal service and they just
they send out letters to just everybody. That was the original Russian Craigslist. Is they're like in search of new farm equipment, like some very specific model, and they send it to everybody in Russia. And somebody eventually is going to be, somebody writes back, they're like, hey, I got one for this amount. Are you willing to barter? I'm looking for, he asked for something really specific too. It just so happens those two people come together and they're like, yeah, I need that farm equipment that you have. And here's
I can't believe we both have this.
Tennis shoes,
I can't believe we both have the same Johan Dare tractor. I know, Dimitri, can you believe it? No, Dimitri, I can't believe that we have the same. I was looking for that pot, and it turns out it fell in my shoe. You have shoes for me. My goodness. Mother Russia, thank you. Mother Russia, God bless you.
Klauslist is what it was called.
Klauslist. Have you met my wife?
My wife?
Have you met my wife?
No, that's a different part of Klauslist. That's
shit.
That's the personals. It was male for female. It's just some guy offering up his wife. The title is My Wife.
My wife.
You click on.
Oh, and he's a fan of the brand new to him comedian Rodney Dangerfield. No, he's a brand new to him, Rodney Dangerfield. The post is my wife, and you click on it, and he goes, "Take her, please, take her. Just take her."
Hey, take her, take my wife.
No.
It's a mix
take
of
my wife, please. Just take her. And there's like the punctuation's all wrong. Take my wife, please. Take her
on Friday.
On Friday, only on Friday. That's the only time she's available.
All right,
That's
I don't know. What else do I have? A lot of my notes that I have here are from the article. The
good one.
By coincidence, having already taken Ivan and Olga. I don't even know who Ivan and Olga are. I've not, in all the things that I've read and listened to in the last several days, I've not heard of an Ivan and Olga. The rescuers also found the dead group by Kazakhstan. The helicopter descended, and everyone on board witnessed a terrible sight.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Almost all the victims were dressed in thin leotards, while 3 were barefoot. The leader was lying on top of Alexandra. Gay.
Yeah, really.
It's actually a chick and a guy.
Yeah, it's what's gay about it.
What happened on the plateau? Let's see how they ended this article. Just for
Okay.
your guys' closure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What happened on the plateau? Why, freezing, did the participants of the hike take off their shoes? Why did the woman lie on a dead guy? Why didn't anyone use sleeping bags? All these questions remain unanswered. The group was taken from the place of death by helicopter by rescuers from Buryatia. In Ulan-Ude, an autopsy was performed and showed that all 6 died from hypothermia. By this time, relatives of the missing tourists arrived in the capital of Buryatia, who eventually took the bodies home. By the way, this is in the article. By the way, Lyudmila's daughter, without waiting for her mother's group at the appointed place, decided that the tourists simply did not have time for the agreed time, and calmly continued her hike. Later, when the root of the second category of difficulty was passed, the daughter of the deceased woman, together with her charges, returned to Kazakhstan, not even suspecting the misfortune. We saw this group on August 5th, says Leonid David Dukovny. We had to take the children out of Khamar Daban and the daughter of Lyudmila Ivanova, who was there for the second day. It was at this time that tragic events were taking place with the group in another place in Khamar Daban. So if it sounds like I was maybe like slurring or saying words incorrectly, like that was, I read it perfectly verbatim.
Wow, my goodness.
That is how it was written. It has nothing to do with the fact that I had been drinking for this whole episode. All right, Jerry, what do you think happened? Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I would love to have a counter to your proposal.
You don't think she killed them?
No, I would love to have an alternate, Tom, that's a great option, but I think I've got I would love to have something like that. But you got me on the why is she covered in blood? I've been sitting here trying, and look, I made the joke about the period, everybody. I get it.
Though.
Everybody, but see, that's also another reason for her to be murderous.
Mm-hmm.
We all know people, and I say people because it's not just women who get their periods, Tom.
Yeah, sometimes you hear of like 41-year-old leaders getting it.
That's right, and it doesn't matter what country they're in. They're like, I would have you meet my wife, the 41-year-old leader, but I currently have her. like you ever hear that Patrice O'Neill bit about when his girl gets her period?
No.
She gets really horny and kind of like out of control, so he takes a stick and pokes her and pushes her into a closet where he locks the door and just shoves meat underneath it for a week so she doesn't die. But so anyway.
So that's what you would do to beat Udachenko?
Yes, I would find the nearest closet in the woods and put her into that closet and then shove meat underneath it until a week had passed, at which time I would assume she would have regained her strength, which is much like the fighter from Rocky V, and would carry me down the mountain thereafter.
Fighter. I was thinking, like, what's that song that it's not by Kelly? It might be by Kelly Clarkson. Any song I don't know, I just assume it's by Kelly Clarkson.
That makes sense.
So not only did we determined the cause of the situation. We've also, as you recall, and I know you know this because you've read the Sandy Hook AAR that came out immediately after the Sandy Hook situation happened, like within the allowable limit of like 48 hours or a couple weeks or whatever.
Right.
Or the Las Vegas shooting situation. I know you've read the AAR that came from that. We've also done an AAR, and you have come up with an idea of what we should do in because the AAR is what happened, what was supposed to happen, and what can we do to make it better next time
to prevent it again. That's right. Yeah.
And you've done that here when you say shove her in a wood closet and throw meat under the door, and that's it. Easy breezy. And next time we don't have situations like Khamar Daban. Khamar Daban.
The nut bag.
Yeah, the Nut Ridge Nut Pass.
Nut
we
pass.
don't have that happen again.
No,
so,
there are no more nut passes unless you're watching Euphoria.
Yeah, and then there's like so many of them. There's everywhere. There's like everywhere you look. You know, it's like
That's
Elton
the screenshot.
John's. Yeah. Please don't take a screenshot. There have been, you know, and I'll do it again here in a moment, but there have been plenty of times throughout the course of this series in which I have done like people have you know, edited it and to include dicks from Euphoria. But do you have anything that anything that you'd like to shill, Jerry, before we cut you loose? I know you got to get we're getting out of here before 3 hours. This is like
holy crap, this is incredible. Yeah, so no, I mean I'd like the old telegrams. Come hang out. No thanks. You know, over on the old telegrams. Certainly hang out at the You Had Me at Bigfoot one. Follow that too, because of course you're just gonna get stuff from me. Otherwise, I don't know. That's it. Let's make sure that you have you know, Tom, we did say have a closet in the woods, as if it's just like you're gonna have to, unless you find the Keebler elves, and even then it would be a small one. It will be up to you to, of course, make your own. And be prepared. I mean, it's just
make your own closets in the woods.
You have to make your own closet in the woods. It's fairly. I mean, look, you know,
there's not obscure thing to say.
Yeah, make your own closet in the woods.
What do you mean, Jerry? Oh, you know what I mean.
You know what I mean.
It's gonna be like super obscure about it. Hey, just make your own closet in the woods. You know, and you know, if you've watched the episode, you'll know what we mean. When
you'll know what I'm talking about.
Just
wait till 3 hours in. You'll see.
Yeah, you'll be good to go. All right. If you haven't already, subscribe. For those of you who are watching or listening to the podcast on the audio, you can tune in on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock to get involved in the chat, and then we say whatever you guys say in the chat. Because we just love having you here, you know, and thanks to everybody who's in the chat, who's actively been chatting. And I'm going to go ahead and say the names of the people who have been active in the chat, just because I love them so damn much. Efren Flores, Mike in Manitoba, Don Trout. Let's scroll up a little bit here. We got Megabit. I think I already said you just a second ago. Gardner Murillo. I don't know who that is, and I think it's actually just a spam bot because it's gibberish.
Well, let's thank them.
Yeah, thank you, Gardner Murillo.
They could have spammed elsewhere.
Yeah, they could, but they chose to spam here. God bless them. Steph, and you know, Jake and J Dubs and Xavier Waffles, who showed up and Critter Me Timbers, and then took off as soon as they showed up. But thank you all for being involved and chatting in the show. And if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't already, subscribe, all that cool stuff. If you are following or listening to the podcast, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and leave comments on whatever platform you're using. Let us know if there's anything that you'd like to hear more. Those of you who have ideas for future shows, it's not like we put a great deal of thought into what comes. Jerry texts me on Wednesday mornings and says, "Hey, what are we talking about this week?" But if you have ideas, I know in the past we've done things like the M Files or J-Cube, the J-Cube series, and this was part of the Swingin' Dicks mini-series. But if you have ideas, don't hesitate to shoot them out to us. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about. We're considering the possibility of trying to do some kind of Patreon thing, which will still have there will still be a free version of it where you can still watch the show and shit like normal. But by subscribing and contributing in that way, we'll do fun shit or whatever for those of you who do contribute. Just because it'll allow us to have a website again, which would be nice. Jerry's been wanting an You Had Me at Bigfoot email since he signed on.
Yeah, obviously. I thought that was part of the deal, and it turns out
it was
not
supposed
yet.
to be, but we ran out of money. We ran out of funds. But yeah, and make sure you check out the Redbubble, all that cool stuff. Buy some shirts. If you have ideas for shirts, if you haven't already been in the Discord and subscribed, signed into or logged in, joined the Discord, please do so. We love having you there. Love having you on the Telegram, all that cool stuff. Jerry, go take care of all the cool stuff that you've got to take care of. Everybody else, we love you. We will see you all next week.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.